I'd like to call this meeting to order. Wow. Please join us with a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Waters.
Before we start a moment of silence, on September 11, 2001, we came together as a nation. With the removal of Osama bin Laden, let us come together again as we remember our constitutional republic with national pride and admiration. Remember, we are Pahrump. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
People that aren't veterans always say that.
All right, item number 2, discussion possible decision regarding moving the order or deletion of agenda items.
Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Waters.
Yes. I'd like to move item 22C up to 6A, just after the advisory board reports.
If I may.
Mr. Waters, I believe that Ms. Parker would like to move the consent agenda items up all together.
I would like to move all the consent agenda items up to 2.5 and take care of all of them at once, if that's okay with you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to delete number 19, 20, and 21.
Mr. Darby, would you like those brought back next town board meeting?
I'll notify since I submitted them.
All right, that's what I'm asking. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Darby.
Okay, any objections to moving consent agenda items up to 2.5 and the deletion of 19, 20, and 21? Okay, so I'll take that as a positive move for consent agenda and the deletion of those 3 items. Anything further from the board? Anything from staff? Very good. All right. 2.5 then is the discussion and possible decision on the consent agenda items.
I'd like to pull 22D for recognition of the youth that came here this evening so that they can speak.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we approve consent agenda items A, B, C, E, and F.
I would
D
like
to be
to-
taken separately.
I would like to bring C out so I can discuss that.
Okay, items A, B, E, and F.
I second that.
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
you can still vote to approve all at once, and you can just talk about the items after you make the motion and second, if you want, instead of separating them and then going back and separating them and going back.
Actually, I believe the whole thing was kind of out of order because we just had the moving of the order and deletion of agenda items, and now that we're at the consent agenda, you're wanting to separate them out, which should have been done in the first section.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, so I would advise that we take Mr. Kohlbarger's suggestion.
Okay, I will withdraw my original motion and ask that we pass items A through F.
I'll second.
Now you can speak.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items. Any comment from the board?
Yes, I'd like to talk about 22C, and I'd like Ms. Penny Hensel to stand, please.
I saw her leave, and she said she'd be right back.
Okay.
She thought she was going to be towards the end, I think.
Okay. Let me say something about Ms. Penny Hensel and about the the Veterans Advisory Board. There was an unwritten rule, but stated many times for the Veterans Advisory Board. It was only for veterans. All the members must be veterans. And it just happened that all the members happened to be male. This is the first application of a female non-veteran for the Veterans Advisory Board. And she was voted unanimously to become a member of the Veterans Advisory Board. Her husband of many years was a veteran. He passed away, and she felt that the veterans had done so much for her, she wanted to give back by becoming a member of the Veterans Advisory Board. So I wanted to go ahead and let everybody know we now have a female member, non-veteran, on the Veterans Advisory Board doing an outstanding job of contributing to our veterans. And I wanted to give her a round of applause. So when she comes back, we can tell her that she received that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Hendersby.
yeah, the reason I asked for that to be removed is because I thought I remembered in the past, and I know that the Board of County Commissioners do pull those agenda items if they're speaking to them. Otherwise, they go on to a consent in general, but I respect the information and will ask that the number D be addressed so that the Youth Advisory Board members that will be seated and that are here that have already been seated come forward so that we can meet you, please. The Youth Advisory Board members, Andrea Sposato and Vanessa Ruiz are the members that will be approved. I'm very proud of this group. We have a 7-member advisory board now. They've all been brought forward and will start their training and workshops. So I have met with them and I'm very impressed. Andrea, that's Andrea, hi. And Vanessa, is there anything either one of you would like to say to the members here or the board or to the citizens here? If you don't feel comfortable, that's fine, but. Mike's on, you gotta go now. Go ahead, Andy.
Okay, well, I'm very excited to be joining this, and I'm looking forward to it. Same.
Cheater. I think they're a little shy.
We were shy. I'd like to move that we accept Andrea Sposato and Vanessa Ruiz to the Prump Youth Advisory Board.
It's part of the original motion.
It's part of the motion.
Okay, it's already been made?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda items A through F, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right. That brings us to announcements.
The announcements for May 10th, 2011. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board will meet on May 11th at 6 p.m. in the Town Office Conference Room. Public Lands Advisory Board will meet on May 11th at 7 p.m. in the Town Annex. Pahrump Boundary Line Advisory Board will meet on May 12th at 6:30 p.m. in the Town Office Conference Room. Arena Advisory Board will meet on May 12th at 7 p.m. in the Town Annex. And the Pahrump Veterans Memorial Advisory Board will meet on May 19th at 6 p.m. in the Town Office Conference Room. And the Incorporation Advisory Board will meet on May 26th at 6 p.m. in the Town Annex. The Town of Pahrump final budget hearing will take place on May 19th at 6 p.m. in the Town Annex. A business entitlement workshop will be held May 18th at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. in the Town Annex. The American Cancer Society's Relay for Life will take place on May 21st at Petrick Park, starting at noon. Pahrump Valley Rough Riders will have an event at the McCullough Arena on May 21st from 8 a.m. Nye County Communities Coalition will be holding a charity poker tournament to benefit the new Pahrump Valley youth activities, and the date has been changed to June 5th at noon in the Pahrump Nugget. So if you were planning to be there, please note the change on that date to June 5th. Pahrump Regional Planning Commission Community Improvement Plan Advisory Committee will meet May 24th at 10 a.m. in the town annex. There will be an ombudsman insurance class on May 24th and May 31st at 2 p.m. in the town annex. And Us Too Prostate Cancer Support Group will meet on May 26th at 5 p.m. It's 4 p.m. I'm sorry, I've been corrected. 4 p.m. at the Pahrump Library. The Canbangers Barrel Race will be on May 28th at the McCullough Arena, and the Social Security Administration will be in the town annex on May 31st from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And the parent involvement classes and events for May will be focused around diabetes education, and parents will be given information to help build academic success through parent involvement. And those classes are given in Spanish as well, and also in Amagosa. You can contact Linda Fitzgibbon at lfitzgibbons, that's LFITZGIBBONS at nye.k12.nv.us for more information.
Anything further from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Penny Hensel is back in the room. I would like her to stand so everybody can see who she is.
Hey, Penny.
Thank you, Penny. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add that being as her husband was a veteran, then she's a veteran by proxy, so that's okay. And I wanted to make a correction on the public lands. Will be meeting at 6:30. They changed their time.
Okay. Anything further from the board? Anything from staff? And we will open the announcements up to public.
I have another meeting at 7 o'clock, I'm sorry. Good evening, board.
Push the button.
Oh, it was green, I'm sorry. Okay, Paula Glidden from Paved and the Pahrump Fair and Festival. I just want to tell you that we had our festival this past weekend, the May West Fest, and it really was a great success. I wish we had seen more of you. Thank you, Mr. Culkin, for coming. And we missed some of you. Yeah, Vicki, you were there too as well. Thank you, Ms. Parker. Long story short, we had a good event. The wind took us out on Sunday. But I just want to make it known that we think we did a really good job in the sense that we brought a lot of people in from out of state. California, Utah, of course Las Vegas, but as well as Arizona that we know of. So we feel good about that, and we think that's part of our economic benefit to the town. So I just want to tell you now that our focus turns towards the Pahrump Fair and Festival, which is, of course, September 29th through October 2nd. And we'll be bugging you every week and whatever to tell you about that. But tickets are on sale for the rodeo, and we, of course, we are having a rodeo this year, and the carnival. And they'll start selling on May 15th. And there's several locations. Everybody can pick them up. They're discounted tickets through mid-September at least. And we're hoping that folks can buy them little by little so that they don't have to spend their whole pocketbook that weekend. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
It's at the annex.
Hi, I'm Sandy Jennings, and I have been a volunteer for the VITA program that we had here in town for the volunteer income tax assistance here. And we rode with it. I was one of two sites over at the Job Connect office, and we just finished up tax season here in Pahrump, and I want to thank everyone that supported us and you, the board, for recognizing us and helping us out with letting people know where we were at, what we were doing. And this year, we did 163 returns, and with the help of the advertising and word of mouth, it brought more people in. There was another site for Fern Payne. She was over at the Annex building, and she had done 333 returns. It brought in, between the two sites, $1,108,000 into the community. So it helped out quite a bit with the returns this year. And it all went back into our community here.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to ask, would you repeat that again of how much money came back to our community?
I've got $1,108,677.
$1,800,000.
$1,108,000.
Oh, great.
All that went back in the community. So with the returns that we did and everyone that came over, it was great this year. Hopefully next year will be better.
Very
Yes.
good for volunteer income tax assistance.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, if that's it for announcements, we will open it up to public comment.
Mr. Chairman, may I make one? I'm sorry. I was sleeping. I have several things I want to say. The first one is sad news. Mr. Harry Ford passed away last Saturday morning very early. Mr. Ford, along with Charles Gallivan, were the founders of the Pahrump Valley Museum. He spent a lot of his time and his effort and his money in donating the properties for the museum, and we'll miss him very much. The services haven't been arranged. You'll see them in the newspaper. And on museum business, we will have this Saturday the next to last of our lecture series for this year, and our lecturer will be Susan Worley from the library to fill us in on the history of the Pahrump Valley Library, and she'll fill us in on the several different locations for the library. It's very interesting to where they are today in a very beautiful building. And I've tried to coax her. I don't know if she'll be able to discuss the ballot issue, which is a favorite subject of people in Pahrump, the people that thought that it was handled incorrectly, but it did finally build a beautiful building that they're in. And lastly, I wanted to make a comment about the announcements. And I've thought of this for a number of times when the announcements are made each meeting at the beginning, and that is, it doesn't take a great deal of time, and I don't want to suggest that this is a great time saver, but the fact is that if the announcements were printed and were along with the agenda and the backup material, people would have a record of those meetings, times, dates, places, and it would be a lot easier for them to have that information at hand instead of trying to hear what was said and scribble notes for it, number one. And number two, I honestly believe that that would encourage greater attendance at some of the events that are announced. And I'd like you to take that into consideration. Thank you.
If I may, the announcements are in the backup.
Not this time.
They're in my backup.
No, that's yours. This is one, oh, you're right, it is. There it is.
It's always in the backup.
I didn't go back far enough, sorry. I stand corrected. They are in there, Mr. Huff.
Mr. Chairman, I believe he's talking about the copy that they receive when they don't get all the backup.
This is their copy.
It's in theirs too.
Yeah, because I didn't bring my laptop, so I grabbed one of their copies.
But that was the one with the backup.
Right.
There was another one that we put out that only has the sheet, and I don't think it has the backup. Is that correct, Sam?
The only ones that didn't have the backup are the announcements are in every backup. I made sure of it.
Okay. So it's already there. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ron Fairbairn, a member of our community, and that's Fairbairn. I would like to present to our board from the Community Outreach Committee. And I'd like to invite you to come, and we meet once a month, and it happens to be tomorrow at Oasis And we do provide lunch. And that's on East 2nd Street, 1061 East 2nd Street. And I would just like to have you aware of some of the members of our community that are involved with this outreach. Of course, you know Richard Fenton from Helping Hands with Jesus, Marcy Ballard, Annie Grubbs from Prompt Mental Health, Mike Mack from Kiwanis Path of Hope, Vanessa Warner, Nye Communities Coalition, Charles Benfate from Prompt Valley Lions, Oasis Outreach, VITA. Many members of our community have come together. We have put together a strategic plan for promoting what this community is about for our children in the future. I would like to give it to you. A lot of work has went into this. We're serious about our community. And this is a Nevada Community Action Strategic Planning Guidelines, and we've also come up with benchmarks for the next 3 years that we're going to hold ourselves accountable to make sure that our children have a place that they can stay here, that they can grow here, and that they can grow their families here. Who would I give this to present to them?
Give it to Mr. Kohlbarger, please.
We are, so many different things are going on in our community. We are losing families, and we are losing children. And we're going to lose them more and more if we don't have our college here for them to go to. And I know this, folks, for a fact. We have people in our community that are, through no fault of their own, they've had to leave because there's no jobs. The school, they don't have enough teachers. They have 35 students for one teacher. You think she can control her class? We have people in our community, 23 years old, Easter Sunday night, I went to the house. He took his own life. We have people in Las Vegas that was in our community that's up for murder and arson because they reached out and they weren't able to be taken care of. We have problems, but we have a great community. Let's get together and work on it. Please come tomorrow at 11:30 to Oasis and see what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Goldstein, Prompt. Thursday, while reading the Prompt Mirror, I come across, well, the front page article. I'm sure everybody's seen it. Town manager muzzles staff, employees barred from speaking to the press. I read this article, and I couldn't believe it. The more I read it, the more aggravated I got. First of all, I can't believe the town boards is allowing this to happen. I know there is a such thing as freedom of speech in this world, but I guess my real question is to Mr. Kohlbarger. What are you afraid of? What, are you hiding something that you don't want the public to know, so you want to be the only one that talks about anything? I just don't understand this.
Sir, this is public comment. It's not public debate.
It is, I'm just asking.
I know you're asking, but to get an answer to your question, you'll actually have to come and see him in the office.
Whatever. I am not surprised. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lennon, and I'm a teenager. I'm a part of the teenage board, as you just saw a few minutes ago, and I just wanted to have my say in how important I think it is. I mean, even the spokesperson that you saw 2 minutes ago on his public comment, upon how he said his views for the children is good. Well, you know, we've all been my age. We know how we feel to have our say and our voice be heard. And I just want to say that, you know, I feel it's important, teenagers my age, etc., to have their voice be heard and their say in this very community. I mean, this is a growing town. Eventually, I've said this a few times before, it's going to become the next Vegas, you know. I mean, that's just what I see. That's just my prediction. And, well, all I'm just saying is keep a lookout for this advisory board, because we may do things that you might not expect. I mean, we may have some views, some things that might just like blow your mind. I mean, you know what I mean? Know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I'm actually looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know. So thank you very much. And I don't know, I'm shaking right now. Pretty shy. I don't speak in very many characters. I mean, I'm a kid. You've all been my age. Come on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bill Dolan, resident of Pahrump, taxpayer, homeowner. As one of the other gentlemen just said, I've been hearing around town about Mr. Kobarger telling town employees they can't speak to the media, that all media information needs to go through him. I heard it last week, heard it this weekend, heard it again today on the radio. Our town is no different than any other town, city, county, or privately held business. It is common and appropriate for this practice to happen. All official media information goes through a public information officer. This just happens to be Mr. Kobarger for the town of Pahrump. Everybody's making a big stink over this. There's not a big stink. Any employee can talk non-town business to anybody anytime they want. That's their freedom of speech. But if it's official business, it goes to the PAO. What would these folks have you do? Hire a PAO? Spend more taxpayer money? I don't think so. It's not that big of a job. It's part of his duties. Let him handle it. He's also been blasted for not appearing, as some of you were blasted today, for not appearing at the governor's event this weekend. Well, that was a non-official visit. It was a fundraiser for the Nye County Republican Central Committee. I can understand why some of you wouldn't be there, okay? Previous town boards, and I'm sure this town board would agree, that the town manager is to be non-political. So they blasted him for not being there. But if he'd have showed up, he'd have been blasted for being there and violating what he's been told to do. People need to get over themselves. This is a community. This is a business, and it needs to be run like a business.
Thank you. I don't believe your microphone's on.
Yeah, now it is. Thank you. J.R. Fisher, F-I-S-H-E-R. And on the same subject, I read in articles like everybody else did. You guys are looking for, if you look for a new town manager, you're going to want a job description. I would like to see a job description, whether you get a new one or keep the one you got, in print. And then from there forward, we know who's supposed to do what. I thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bruce Colley, citizen. Last meeting, I read 203.90, disturbing a meeting. I'm sure you're familiar with it by now. Definition of disturbance, generally speaking, any conduct which is annoying in part or whole is a disturbance. That includes interrupting, hindered, perplexing, disquieted, diverted from the objective of the assembly. We have a couple board members that continually chit-chatting, sitting up there amongst themselves, speaking out of turn, making little of people sitting here trying to make a point. Mr. Darby had to speak to him 3 times last meeting. I think that falls under this ordinance right here that you enacted. Also, in the town board policy says no member of the board except the chairman may speak while another person is speaking, and the public must be recognized by the chairman. So what I would suggest, Mr. Darby, if you have someone here speaking that has the floor and they're interrupted or disturbed or perplexed, or however you want to go by the definition, whatever term they feel to use, by any member of the board, that they can call the constable back here, one of Tony's boys, and probably file a formal complaint. And as it says in the ordinance, it shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, not maybe, not if he feels like it, and it'll be on public record. So what I was going to suggest to prevent that from happening, if you'll ask the two women up there, maybe get Mrs. Enderby's permission to switch places, it might break the duo up and prevent any disrupting and save future problems. Also, I've been trying to get pros and cons into the minutes of the meeting since the first of the year. In your prompt town board resolution 21102, each member of the public speaking on an item shall first state whether he is speaking for or against the motion. Very easy. Mrs. Carnes can just keep a little list. Whoever speaks up there says right here, either you're for or against the agenda, pro or con, and get it in the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Stevens, prompt citizen, taxpayer. I heard Mr. Dolan speaking there. I read that article in the newspaper too. I got all upset with it. He's comparing this town with other places here. This town doesn't even begin to compare with other towns. This town is haywire, believe me. That's the first time I've seen somebody go and muzzle somebody around this town. Who do you think he is muzzling people, this town manager? The only reason I come down here tonight is try to get him fired, and that's about hopeless. I just don't agree with him. He isn't back on the town board. He got out of there. I voted for every one of you people up there. You're not doing your job right. Except Mrs. Hennessy there once in a while. But this town manager, he changes things around to his way of thinking. He don't know nothing. He's simple in the head. I take that back. I'm not supposed to do that. They're liable to kick me out of here yet. I'll guarantee you, I'm crippled up, but they might have a hard time doing that too. I just can't see the way Mr. Dolan was talking there. Thinks he's still on the town board. I know he's Kohlberger's best buddy. No question about that. Some of the things they've done in the last town board. This town board is getting the same way. I'll be the level. I'll tell anybody. If I got something to say, I'll say it. Not only that, you start muzzling people. I say right now, he's trying to hide something. I'm not kidding this old man, boy. He's trying to hide something here. He really is. Why can't we have an open? Bring it out in the open here. I've always said that, and be honest. That's what we need, is a good, honest town board. And bring this stuff out in the open. I can just about think of what's going on behind the scenes here. A lot of stuff. I got 42 minutes, 42. Oh, whoever's laying these booby traps around here, they lay any more of them, I won't come down here no more. Fell down here and almost broke my neck. Kohlberger laid a booby trap for me. Thank you very much. I want to save them minutes. I can't do that.
No, you can't, Dave. Thank you.
I know they tell me that every time here. Okay, you got it.
Gary Vavzicki, resident, V-A-V-Z-Y-C-K-I. You've heard me before here talking about my park. In the last week, just to bring you up on to date, I did get some movement where I went from one department and they gave me some, they re-permitted my plans, my permits that they said were invalid. I walked across the street to the building and safety, and I was told that I was only going to have to renew over there. When I got over there, they started writing me, telling me I needed bills again for impact fees, school impacts, county impacts, soil reports. I went home and got some of my paperwork from 4 years ago, showing first of all that my permit, I hired a company to put the house up, and it says on there not to exceed, no additions or deletions, and that's dated, let's see, December 29th, I think it is, 06. A few days later, Custom Backhoe billed me for doing all those services. Well, they billed Custom Backhoe. Custom Backhoe billed the home builders, and the home builders billed me. I have my check dated the next day to Starboard Homes to pay for it, but they say none of those things were paid. I'm just saying that I find it, and I tried to do it gracefully, that I can't believe that 3 individual companies that made up reports, soil tests, pictures with permits hanging and everything else, plot plans and everything, did everything correct and to the letter except pay for the permits and pay the fees. They keep using the phrase that we don't have anything on record. Well, records can be lost. One of the things I'm coming before is because ordinance number 306, Building and Construction Codes, states that any owner or authorized agent who intends to construct, enlarge, repair, alter, change, occupy, or use a building or structure to cause any such work to occur shall first make application to Building and Safety Department and obtain the required permits. So how could these things, pictures and things be going around without it? If they did drop the ball and didn't collect it, why am I being held responsible?
Sir, I'm going to have to stop you there. It's not within the authority of this board to even consider the items that you're bringing before us, because those are all county issues.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Who pays the bills for Building and Safety? Who pays their...
Not us.
County
That's the
told
county.
me just today, county says you pay it. County told me you pay the bills, that you pay for them. See, this is what I'm getting at. Everybody's hiding under this. It's, you say conspiracy like it's a joke, but everybody's hiding behind a little veil. You don't have this, they don't have this, and you just keep jerking me around. You guys are drinking from the same glass of water. The fees are collected. That's the other thing I wanted to bring up. With the master plan, I went to that the next day after talking to you last time. And on there, it's the same thing. You're all the same people. And they keep saying, why do we have to go to court to settle this? You have things in there saying that, grandfathered extensions and stuff like this. You're the same people. You collect the fees are sitting in the bank account for your parks. You're the same people. Why do you have to be your hand twisted behind your back by a judge to say you're the same people?
Sir, your time is up. We're not the same people.
I think a judge would disagree with that.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, sir.
Kenny Bent. I'd like to comment on what Mr. Dolan said. I myself have witnessed about 25% inflation in the last 3 months. I drive back and forth a lot. I know fuel and food has been. We're in a very interesting precipice of somewhere between hyperinflation and default, which anybody who's really paying attention to what's going on across the country and the globe can't really avoid. So in that sense, I would like to say that what every other city is doing that's led us to where we are in this country today is not the ideal model to be following. So I think at this point, one of the things I've liked best that's happened in this town was the community garden, thinking along that line of where we are and where potentially we're going instead of just business as usual. There's a lot of town depending on some decisions. With the new board in here, I thought that that was part of what we were going to be looking at, and not just keep, hopefully, build it and they will come. I don't think that's necessarily what's going to happen, and I don't see where government, any government on any level, it should be in the business of creating jobs. I think they should be allowing them, and I thought that was the direction we were going to be heading at one time, to make it easier. You know, we had the concept of the freest town in America come up. I thought, how great. It's just like, you know, this isn't anything personal, but I heard, you know, some ideas of tearing down the Red Center and building a new building so that businesses would come in and see this fancy building. As an employer myself, I would tell you the first thing I would look for would be a town where they're meeting in the Grange Hall, or a building like the Bob Rudd Center, where there's not a bunch of vultures outside looking for money. I learned a long time ago, and most successful business people realize if you chase money, you're going to lose it. You do something responsible, and it'll follow you. So I think just stepping back and allowing things to happen is a lot better way to go at this point in time. I don't think anybody's looking for getting into a town where they have expensive architecture in their public buildings. I would avoid that like the plague myself, especially at this point in time. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go. All right, Jim Dunsing. Before you, because I passed them out to all of you, is a way we can help with our budget. The budget has this item in it that continually loses about $60,000+ a year. And if we follow the recommendations of the Libertarian Party, we will repeal Pahrump Town Ordinance 35, which costs the town $60-some thousand, and businesses I don't know how much in compliance costs. I don't think I'm alone in even public comment tonight in talking about things that the government does to get in the way of business. And frankly, at this point in our economy, we don't need any more impediments. We don't need any more red tape. We don't need any more bureaucrats who are costing us money and providing us a negative service. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no one else getting up for public comment?
One more here, sir.
Yes, sir.
Eric Vasella, 5400 North Highway 160. Our town needs to put an end to selective law enforcement and discrimination that takes place under the authority of Al Balaqui and William Bill Krobugger. For example, United Parcel Service was allowed to conduct business out of a dirt lot located at 2790 North Blagg Road, even though they did not have a valid business license for that address. Pahrump Town Ordinance Number 35 is a law that requires all businesses to have a valid business license before conducting business. I filed a complaint. I was asked to rewrite it and submit it again. Then I was required to type the complaint and submit it again. Numerous valid complaints were ignored, and Al Balaqui and William Krobugger renewed a business license that they knew was not valid. For over 2 years, they never enforced the law or collected the appropriate fees. Is selective law enforcement illegal? Another example occurred when I asked the Pahrump Town office to change the Pahrump Town website. Somehow, the Democratic Club was renamed the Democratic Club. When I asked Al Balaqui to make the necessary changes, he responded with a nonchalant, arrogant retort. That's what they are, aren't they? Do you think high-paid town officials should be non-biased and treat all people, businesses, and organizations equally? In closing, most people would agree that small businesses and hardworking citizens are the backbone of our economy. Selective law enforcement and discrimination is hollowing out our local economy. Many small business owners and average citizens can see that the playing field is not level. Please find some new management and leadership for the rural township of Pahrump. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Alrighty, seeing no one further getting up for public comments, we will move on to town board member comments. Anything from the board? Dr. Waters.
Yes, sir. At the last town board meeting, one person mentioned that at one meeting there were 3 town board members and that was a violation of the open meeting law. And I wanted to clarify that it was not a violation of the open meeting law. All 5 of us can attend any meeting that we like, as long as we're not talking about agenda items or town business. We can attend the meeting. Now, what we have chosen to do whenever we find ourselves at a meeting, more than one of us, we sit apart from each other. And we do that only because we don't want rumors or innuendos or somebody saying that because they sat together, they may have talked about something and violated the open meeting law. So for that reason, whenever we find ourselves at a meeting, we ourselves separate ourselves just for that reason. But it is very legal for us to be at any meeting. All 5 of us can be at any meeting. The other thing I'd like to say is I appreciate all the phone calls and emails that I've received, not just for the meeting tonight, but for other meetings as well. And on some of the emails, I have noticed that people do send it not only to me, but to all 5 members. And I really appreciate that because I'd like the other board members, since I can't tell them anything except at the open meeting, I appreciate you doing that. So again, keep the information coming to us. We don't have all the information. You may have something that we need to know. Please keep us informed. As I used to say when I was in the Air Force, don't treat us like mushrooms and keep us in the dark. Enlighten us. You've got the information. Please pass it on to us. And I thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Ms. Endersby?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I have just a few comments. One being the article that was in the paper, and I certainly received many citizens' comments on that. I would certainly hope that the intent was not to keep our citizens from being able to interface with, especially our department heads. I know and respect our department heads and know that many of them have been here longer than most that are on staff and in management. So they have the professional expertise to know what it is that they have the ability to speak to, and I'm sure they would be more than willing to take any information to an information officer that isn't within their purview. So I'm sure that the thought was not to keep the department heads from access to our citizens. The other comment is about a workshop that I attended that Pool Pack put on in Boulder City. And it was an e-discovery workshop concerning information risk management. And I'd like to pass one of the workbooks on because it's something I feel we do need to address here in Pahrump, which is the management of our records. In my time as a town clerk, I know I've looked at many of the records and have sought the information that I've looked for and found that in many respects it's hard to come by. The records do need to be organized and put into some type of accessibility and transparency. And Pool Pact has put on a very good information on how that can be done. So I would like to see if we as a town board can move forward with that to develop a preservation policy and a transparency policy concerning our present town records. And the last thing I'd like to just notice the board and the chair is that I will have to leave at 10:30.
Thank you. May I ask staff if they could they get permission from Pool Pack to make copies of this and distribute it with the other board members, please?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Culkin.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank Mr. Kohlbarger and staff for getting this banner made you see up in the front here. during a recent car show, I wanted to have a booth there where the town could meet the board members and so on and know that we were there. And to my amazement, there was no banner. I mean, I assume in the past that, you know, the town board has been places or whatever promoting the town, and yet they didn't have anything to let people know they were there. So we got a nice banner there. I'd like to talk, you know, one of the things that bugs me, and I keep on talking about this, is, you know, I wear glasses, but I don't have tunnel vision. Whenever something comes before us or I have to consider something, I look at all sides. And unfortunately, we seem to have too many people with tunnel vision around here. Let's talk about the muzzle thing, whatever you want to call it. Come on, every business has a public relations person. We have a couple sheriff deputies back there. Go ask them if anybody in the sheriff's office is free to speak on anything they want going on in that department. Of course not. And if you have a problem because you feel that something's not out there that should be, then come see one of us board members. I assure you we'll take action. But until that happens, why do you have to be so negative about everything? We are moving forward in this town. And I encourage you to come to the next town board meeting, because something I've been excited about wanting to see happen in our community is finally going to take root possibly at our next town board meeting. And because it's on the agenda, I can't say too much about it. But it's time for us to get together and realize what is important for this community, and that's economic development and jobs. And we're going to start that at our next meeting with something, in my opinion, it's the biggest thing to ever be considered in the town of Pahrump. So let's stop all this bickering about all this little stuff, and let's work together as a team. As you know, my wife works at Smith's. Well, and a lot of customers come in there. Well, what would happen with that manager in there is every time you listen to someone whine about something, he fired this person, fired that person, all this, there'd be chaos in a store. A manager's job is to get people to work together effectively for the good of whatever the organization is. And that's what this board is trying to do. And we would certainly like to get your help. If you have something viable that you're concerned about, we'd love to hear it. But this trivial nonsense has got to stop. Some public comment is just simply about finding something to pick on. It's not conducive to getting things done here. Nothing is perfect. So let's start working together. How about that for once? Thank you.
Ms. Parker? All right. Okay, moving right along to item number 6, advisory board reports. Anything from the liaisons?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I would just like to point out that
Turn your mic on.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out that tomorrow will be the first meeting of the Boundary Line Advisory Board. And as I pointed out before, advisory boards, excuse me, yes, Thursday, thank you. Thursday at 6:30, and it'll be at the town office, because we have so many things going on, there's no room in the annex, so it'll be at the town office. And as I pointed out before, advisory board meetings are very informal. And quite frankly, if you're just there as a public participant, about the only thing that's different between you and a board member is you just don't vote. So your opinion counts, people want to hear what you have to say, so I hope you'll attend the inaugural meeting and get involved. Because whether you are picked to be on any board that you have an interest in, like I said, you can participate, and we need a lot more participation in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Parker?
The Tourism Board met last week, and they're working diligently along with staff to promote tourism in the town. They had an RPF out for a video. They're looking for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and maybe 5 minutes that they can loop on a computer when they go to trade shows, use for TV advertisement, and actually put on our website. And they got 14 responses, which I think is outstanding. So with that many choices, I think you'll wind up with some awesome video promotion of the town.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Dr. Waters?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was hoping someone from the Veterans Advisory Board would come up and say something, because that board is doing a lot of things for our town. For the cemetery, I know it was mentioned at the last meeting that there's going to be an F-4 airplane that's going to be brought in and put in, because many of our veterans are familiar with the F-4, since many of them served in Vietnam, and all the services had F-4 aircraft. And also for the Army and Marine Corps, there's the howitzers that are going to be also included. So the veteran section of the cemetery is going to be something that I think you will all be very proud of as it comes along. And the Veterans Advisory Board members are doing an outstanding job, as the other advisory board members are as well. But I'm watching them as they continue to grow, and with the new member now being a woman, looking at it from the outside as a non-veteran, she's going to contribute so much to make it just so much better for us. So again, Veterans Advisory Board.
Thank you. Okay, yes, sir. Yeah.
John Pollock, speaking for the Nuclear Waste and Environmental Advisory Board. I'm the vice chair. This past weekend on Saturday, we had the 11th annual town cleanup, and it went very, very well. We had wonderful weather for that. Unfortunately, I'm the only one here this evening because of prior commitments. George Sausman, the chair, and our secretary, Cheryl Beeman, are preparing a press release that deals with the event, how much trash was picked up, who was present there. There was a lot. But we will be presenting that at future town board meeting, and also giving that out to the news media here also. We'd like to thank the board members that were present for that, and all the folks that turned out for this wonderful event. It's our 11th annual one, and thank you very much for backing us up for this. And I'd like to say that the town looked a little bit cleaner this year before we started, because I took a trip around the town to see the spots that we would look into to clean up, and it looked a little bit cleaner than the past years, maybe because the people that moved out were the ones that were dirtying the town. I don't know. Hopefully that's what it was. But thank you, and thanks for all the folks that were there for that 11th annual event.
I would like to add that the preliminary count is 11.14 tons.
That's a lot of trash. I was going to say something else, but
Well, I was busy all day Saturday training a driver, so we were running around picking up all the roll-off boxes that day.
And we'd like to thank you in Pahrump Valley Disposal, which plays an enormous part for this. They give a lot of volunteer work, and without their help, we couldn't put this on. So we really thank them, and thank you for coming there and helping us pick up the trash.
Thank you. Any of the other advisory board reports? Seeing nobody else, we will move on to item number 7, Town of Pahrump Economic Development Report. Okay, any questions on the advisory, okay. Then we will move right along to item number 8, discussion and possible decision to approve a proclamation to assist the efforts of Mr. Butch Harper, Pahrump citizen, in supporting his endeavor to ensure a military family pay grade E4 or below to have a Merry Christmas in 2011. Ms. Endersby.
Almost got a drink of water there. Yes, thank you for coming forward, Mr. Harper. By virtue of the authority given to the Pahrump Town Board by the ordinances and laws of the town of Pahrump and by the state of Nevada, whereas Andrew Harper, Andy Harper, as a volunteer and productive member of the community, presented to the town of Pahrump the desire to aid a military family of the pay grade E4 or below for the 2011 Christmas season. And whereas Pahrump Veterans Memorial Board declared their support for Andre Harper in his endeavors, and whereas Andre Harper has proven his desire and perseverance in benefiting the community in a variety of ways on numerous occasions, including but not limiting to his efforts in Smile Across Pahrump. Now therefore, we, the Pahrump Town Board, on behalf of the town of Pahrump and citizens of Pahrump, do hereby express support to Mr. Andre Butch Harper in his endeavors to ensure a very Merry Christmas in 2011 for one or more military families in Pahrump, dated this 10th day of May, 2011.
May I have a motion to approve the proclamation?
I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation.
I second it.
Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposed. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Excuse me if my voice wavers a little bit, but a few things I marked down here. We have no draft anymore, and it's all unlisted personnel. They volunteer, protect our nation, protect us, our freedom of speech, so we can come in here and sort of say what we want to say about each other. But many of our military are asking for food stamps. It might be hard to believe some of the people in this room that's never lived the life of a military family. It's true. They ask for food stamps. And we have to help them one way or the other. Mother's Day just passed. Many female veterans, active military personnel serving over with Iraq and Afghanistan, their children are home, wondering if they're going to come home, if they're going to come home whole, partially, or maybe not at all. We owe this to their families. Oh, man. I'd like to thank the Veterans Advisory Board that backed me, the town board. There was I don't know, I said before, when I joined, people ran for Canada. I wish I would have kept on running. And our country finally came through and got rid of a terrible person. And you can call them a person, whatever you want, or an animal, but our Navy SEALs, our president, our whole military, everybody had part of it. And we owe them a great deal of gratitude. And I'd like to bring our troops home. It might not be possible because we don't know what the repercussions are going to be. So we got to back our families, our military families, in any way possible, either one family at Christmas or multiple families at Christmas. And this is very humbling to me, very humbling. I've been humbled before up in Nellis Air Force Base when I talked in front of the troops there. I was able to donate a collage of patches, medals, ribbons that represented the past, present, future. Dr. Waters was there, General Neil Beer was there, Colonel John Davis, Sergeant Major Frank Miller was there, Lieutenant Al Jones, and multiple other people. And it's I don't know, it's a privilege to serve your country. Not just a privilege, but it's your duty. And like I say, there is no draft anymore. They're all enlisted personnel. Our youth are putting their life on our line. And a lot of them are married. And their families back here asking for food stamps. In this country, it should not be allowed. So all I can say is bring our troops home, and God bless America. And God bless everybody in this room. Anybody got a tissue? I can assure you.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Item number 9, discussion possible decision to approve a certificate of appreciation for Marvin Minnick for all his hard work, dedication, and technical advice in the area of tourism to the Pahrump Tourism and Convention Council and the Pahrump town of Pahrump and the town staff. Ms. Parker.
Yes, Mr. Minnick is not able to be here tonight. He's got a grandchild with the birthday party that conflicted in being a good grandpa. That was more important tonight, but we will have a certificate for him in the office. Marvin was on the tourism board for quite a while and moved on to head Silver Trails. But he has the technical background in advertising from his position at R&R Partners, and so we continue to rely on him heavily. And this is appreciation for the hours that he spent just helping out.
Okay, with that said, I'll entertain a motion to approve a certificate of appreciation for Murphy Mimic.
I'll make a motion to approve the certificate of appreciation.
I'll second.
Any further comment from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item number 10, presentation by Ms. Susan Moore, Extension Educator, University of Nevada Cooperative Extension on wildfire fire preparedness, entitled The Next Step in Wildfire Preparedness. Welcome, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. It'd be a minute before I put the video on. My name is Susan Moore, and I work for the University of Nevada Cooperative Extension. One of the many things that we do is we try to partner with the different agencies, and one of them is fire. And recently, we were told that fire restrictions were going to occur next week with all of the BLM and the U.S. Forest Service, all the federal agencies. And we thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and maybe help the community by giving a presentation on what homeowners can do during wildfire season. So this is what I'm going to show you, is a video on that. And hopefully we'll be able to hear it okay and all the good things. It'll be a couple more minutes. One of the concerns I've had when I've been involved with wildland fires is the fact that the homeowners are so, if they lose everything, of course, they're devastated. But more importantly, they're so helpless. When they have something like this occur, they just don't know what to do. This video was put together by the University of Nevada Cooperative Extension and the Nevada Forest Service. And they give us the before, during, and after of what we can do in a wildfire setting. So, computers take a little minute or two. Is that going to give me my full screen, or?
Yeah, on your computer you got to use the full screen manual. Full screen menu.
Okay, as soon as it gets. Well, it's coming. While we're waiting, I have some books that I brought. It's called The Next Step in Wildfire Preparedness, and it summarizes everything that's in the video, so you can take them home and oh, come on. I didn't have any. Ah, there it is. Uh-oh.
As far as the sound, you may want to bend your microphone down to your laptop.
Okay, we have it. It's not allowing me to push play yet.
Try enter.
Enter? Okay. There we go. It's not there. Now it lets me do it. It's only 24 minutes long. Can you guys see it from where
If you live in Nevada with high fire hazard environments, each possessing all of the ingredients necessary to sustain a high-intensity, uncontrollable wildfire. Within these hazardous areas, we build houses, subdivisions, entire communities. And unfortunately, many of the people who live here are not prepared to survive a wildfire. Carson City's waterfall fire is a vivid reminder that the threat of wildfire is real. This fire in 2004 destroyed 17 houses, damaged 14 others, and injured 5 people. A couple built their dream home on this spot. Just a few years later, the waterfall fire destroyed that dream in just a matter of minutes. The stories and the statistics are remarkable, but not uncommon. Wildfires strike every year, and Carson City is not unique. Fires of this type can happen elsewhere in Nevada. I'm Brent Boynton. Welcome to Living with Fire, a program about how to live more safely in Nevada's high fire hazard areas. We're about to show you how you can reduce the threat of wildfire by following recommendations developed by Nevada's firefighting experts. If you live next to or near land with cheatgrass and weeds, sagebrush, pinyon juniper woodland, manzanita and other Sierra shrubs, or Jeffrey pine, then you need to watch this program. All these types of vegetation burn easily, and there's a significant chance wildfire will threaten your home. Watching this program just might save your home and even the lives of your family during a wildfire. We're going to show you what to do in 3 stages: before a fire occurs, during a fire, and after the fire. First, we'll discuss things homeowners should do before a wildfire breaks out, things you can do now before the danger is imminent. Did you ever wonder why some houses survive a wildfire while others are destroyed? Investigators have found that house survival during wildfire is not random, miraculous, or dumb luck. Rather, it's how the house is built and the characteristics of the adjacent vegetation that usually determine which homes burn and which survive a wildfire. These things are all the homeowner's responsibility, and they can all be done before the fire starts. This house is an excellent example of a homeowner taking action to protect his home before a wildfire occurs. Originally, this house had a wood shake roof and overgrown, flammable vegetation. Sometime before the fire, this homeowner changed the roof to fire-resistant tile and cleared away the dangerous brush. He added a deck, but enclosed the underside to reduce the fire risk. The actions this homeowner took before the fire improved the odds that this house would survive. Our before the fire recommendations are presented according to 3 zones: the built zone, the defensible space zone, and the access zone. Built zone recommendations pertain to house construction and maintenance. Defensible space zone recommendations concern the management of vegetation growing near the home. And the access zone recommendations provide suggestions that help emergency responders locate your home in a timely manner. Before we talk about making your home more fire safe, we need to understand the threat of wildfire. A wildfire will threaten your home in 3 ways: contact by flames, radiated heat, and flying embers. Contact by flames is probably what most people envision when they think of wildfires threatening homes. This occurs when a fire burns close enough to the house that flames touch and ignite the home. Radiated heat is produced by invisible electromagnetic waves. They travel out in all directions from a flame. When a house receives enough radiated heat for a sufficient time, it will ignite without flames ever touching it. Sometimes radiated heat can burst windows and let burning embers get inside the house. Radiant heat melted the vinyl siding on this house. Flames never touched it. But most homes are destroyed because of flying embers. During a wildfire, pieces of burning material, such as branches, pine cones, and wood shakes from a burning roof, can be lofted high into the air and carried hundreds of feet to more than a mile from the actual fire. Burning embers can also be carried by wind and fire whirls. If these burning embers land on easily ignitable materials such as wood shake or shingle roofs, leaves and rain gutters, dry weeds, trash, or wood piles, a new fire can start. Our build zone recommendations are designed to make the house harder to ignite. If a house never catches fire, it can't burn. Houses with wood shake or shingle roofs are much more likely to be destroyed during a wildfire than homes with a fire-resistant roof. If you have a wood shake or a wood shingle roof, you really ought to consider replacing it with a roof made of fire-resistant materials. They include cement shingles, like this roof, composition shingles, tile, and metal. Regardless of the type of roof you have, keep it free of fallen leaves, needles, and branches. Rain gutters don't just collect falling water. They also trap flying embers. Always keep your rain gutters free of leaves, needles, and debris. Check and clean them several times during fire season. Vents are potential entry points for flying embers. Embers were able to start a fire inside this house by getting in through an unscreened attic vent. All vent openings need to be covered with 1/8" or smaller non-corrosive wire mesh. The ability to close vents is also a good feature. Do not use fiberglass or plastic mesh because they can melt or burn. Wood products such as boards, panels, and shingles are common siding materials, but they're combustible, and they're not good choices for fire-prone areas. Non-combustible siding materials such as stucco, brick, and cement board are better choices. As wildfire approaches, heat can be trapped under overhangs. Cover the underside of eaves with 1/2" plywood or similar material. The underside of the deck should also be enclosed with fire-resistant materials. At the very least, cover it with 1/8" wire mesh. Keep this area free of all easily combustible materials, such as leaves, firewood, and debris. Windows are one of the weakest parts of a house. Windows usually break before the house ignites. This allows burning embers and heat to get inside the home, which may lead to internal ignition. Single-paned and large windows are especially vulnerable. In high fire hazard areas, install windows that are at least double-glazed or tempered glass. Windows with aluminum frames and sashes are better choices than those using wood or vinyl. Chimney and stovepipe openings should be screened with 1/2" or smaller non-combustible mesh or an approved spark arrestor cap. Keep the porch, deck, and all other areas of the home free of easily combustible materials like baskets, dried flower arrangements, newspapers, pine needles, and debris. Firewood stacks should be located at least 30 feet from the house. If you stack firewood uphill from the house, make sure that burning firewood can't roll downhill and ignite the home. The term defensible space refers to the area between a house and the oncoming wildfire, where the vegetation has been managed to reduce the wildfire threat and to let firefighters safely defend the house. In the event that firefighters are not available, defensible space also improves the likelihood of a home surviving without assistance. Here's how to create an effective defensible space in 6 steps. Step 1. Determine the size of your defensible space. It's usually expressed as a distance extending outward from the house in all directions. The recommended distance is not the same for every home. It varies depending on the type of vegetation and the steepness of the slope surrounding the house. For example, if your house is surrounded by shrubs like sagebrush and it's located on flat terrain, the distance would be 100 feet. Once you know the recommended distance for defensible space, mark it by tying strips of cloth or flagging to shrubs. This becomes your defensible space zone. Step 2. Remove dead vegetation. Get rid of dead and dying trees, dead native and ornamental shrubs, dead branches, dead leaves, needles, even twigs that are still attached to plants, draped on live plants, or lying on the ground within 30 feet of the house. Also remove dried grass, weeds, and flowers. Of particular concern is dried cheatgrass. It's easy to ignite and burns quickly. Step 3. Within the defensible space zone, check whether native trees and shrubs, such as Jeffrey pine, pinon, juniper, and sagebrush, are widely spaced or occur in a dense stand. Dense stands of trees and shrubs pose a significant wildfire threat and should be thinned. Shrubs, pinon, and juniper trees should be thin so that their branches are separated by a distance of at least twice the shrub or tree's height. For large trees like Jeffrey pine, create a separation of 10 feet between branch tips. Step 4. Create a separation between tree branches and lower growing plants. The recommended separation for ladder fuels is 3 times the height of the lower vegetation. Prune the lower tree branches, shorten the height of the shrubs, or remove lower plants. But for the health of the tree, do not remove more than 1/3 of the total branches. Step 5. Create a lean, clean, and green area extending at least 30 feet from the house. The lean, clean, and green area is usually the home landscape. This area often has irrigation available, is planted with ornamental vegetation, and is regularly maintained. Remove most or all flammable wildland plants, such as big sagebrush, bitterbrush, rabbitbrush, cheatgrass, pinon, juniper, and manzanita. Select less flammable plants for this area, like lawn, flowers, ground covers, and low-growing deciduous shrubs. Emphasize the use of hard surfaces and mulches. Hard surfaces include materials like concrete, asphalt, stone, and brick. Mulches include rock and wood. The area within 3 feet of the house is especially critical. Emphasize the use of irrigated herbaceous plants such as lawn, ground covers, and flowers. You can also use rock mulches and hard surfaces within 3 feet of the house. Do not use wood mulches or flammable evergreen shrubs like juniper, mugo pine, or arborvitae in this area. Step 6. Maintain the defensible space area. Plants grow back, so you have to remove and properly dispose of flammable vegetation regularly. Reevaluate your property before each fire season using the previous 5 steps. The final recommendations for before the fire deal with the access zone. The goals of the access zone are to help firefighters locate your house and get there in a timely manner. The home address should be readily visible from the street. The address sign should be made of fire-resistant material with characters at least 4 inches high. Street signs should be posted at each intersection leading to your home. Each sign should feature characters that are at least 4 inches high and should be made of reflective, non-combustible material. Inadequate bridges and culverts may keep fire trucks from actually getting to your home. Ask your local fire marshal about proper bridge and culvert design for your area. Roads and long driveways should be at least 12 feet wide and not too steep. The grade should be less than 12%. Homes located at the end of long, narrow streets and dead ends can discourage firefighters and complicate evacuation. They should have turnaround areas and turnouts that allow two-way traffic. Remove flammable vegetation from both sides of the driveway for at least 10 feet. Overhead obstructions like overhanging branches and power lines should be removed or raised to provide at least a 15-foot vertical clearance. In this segment, we'll discuss what to do during a wildfire. Specifically, what you should wear, what you should take, and how you should leave your home if you're asked to evacuate. It's important to remember during a wildfire, it will likely be smoky, windy, hot, and very dry. Burning embers may be falling all around you or being blown by the wind or fire whirls. There may be no phone service, no electricity, and little or no water pressure. Here's what you should do if wildfire is threatening your home. Wear only cotton, wool, or leather clothing. Wear long pants, a long-sleeved shirt or a jacket, and boots. Carry gloves, a handkerchief to cover your face, water to drink, and goggles. Keep a flashlight and a portable radio with you at all times. Tune to a local radio station and listen for instructions. If possible, evacuate all family members not essential to preparing the house for wildfire. Make sure to designate a safe meeting place and a contact person. Relay your plans to the contact person. Evacuate your pets. Contact the local Humane Society for pet assistance if you need it. Place your vehicles in the garage, pointing outward with the keys in the ignition. Roll up the windows. Close the garage door, but leave it unlocked. If you have an electric garage door opener, disconnect it so the door can be opened manually. You should take several essential items with you. Important documents such as IRS, trust, investment, and insurance documents, birth certificates, and medical records. You'll need credit cards and ATM cards, cash, a checkbook, medications, and prescription glasses. Take your driver's license, your passport, and computer backup files. If there's time, videotape or photograph your possessions. Don't forget to record things inside closets. And shoot the exterior of the house, including the landscape. Ideally, this should be done before the fire occurs, with the tape or photos stored at a safe location. Take your address book, your cell phone and charger, personal toiletries, and a change of clothing. Think about keepsakes you'd like to preserve, family photo albums and videos, and family heirlooms. Put all these things in your car ready to go. Back in the house, close all interior doors and leave a light on in each room. Remove lightweight flammable curtains and other combustible materials from around the windows. Close fire-resistant drapes, shutters, and Venetian blinds. Turn off all pilot lights. Move overstuffed furniture like couches and easy chairs to the center of the room. Put combustible patio furniture inside the house or the garage. If it's left outside, burning embers could ignite it, and then your burning patio furniture could possibly threaten the house. Shut off propane at the tank or natural gas at the meter. Prop a ladder against the house to give firefighters easy access to your roof. Make sure all garden hoses are connected to faucets and attach nozzles set on spray. Close all exterior doors and windows. Leave exterior doors unlocked and turn on outside lights. If there's time and you have the materials, cover your windows, attic openings, and vents with plywood at least a ½ inch thick. Wet down wood shake or shingle roofs before leaving. Put trash cans where firefighters can find them and fill them with water. If you have an emergency water source like a pool or a pond and or a portable pump, be sure firefighters know about it. Make a sign that can be seen from the street. But while you're trying to save your house, remember, nothing you own is worth your life. Please evacuate immediately when firefighters or law enforcement officers ask you to. The days, weeks, and months following a wildfire may be very difficult, depending on your loss. For some people, it may just be a matter of cleaning up ash and smoke smell. Others, less fortunate, may need to replace all their possessions and possibly contend with the loss of a loved one. The emotional trauma of a wildfire can be something you never forget. It can be especially challenging for children. Children often perceive things as being worse than they are. Be sure to talk to your kids about the fire and its effects. Also, don't hesitate to ask for counseling from the Red Cross or another disaster relief organization. Our after the fire recommendations are presented in 3 categories: things to do before you enter your home, more things to do once you're inside your house, and landscape care. If you were evacuated, contact your insurance agent or company to let them know how you can be reached. Keep receipts for temporary living expenses, like motel rooms and meals. Do not return to your home until re-entry is permitted by law enforcement officials. Do not cross a barricade or hazard tape without permission. Be careful when going back into your neighborhood. Charred trees and power poles may be unstable. Fires may flare up without warning. Live power lines may be on the ground. And watch out for ash pits, holes created by burned trees filled with hot ash. You or your pets can be seriously burned if you fall into an ash pit. Check to see if your gas and electric utilities are working properly. If you smell gas, shut off the gas supply at the main valve, leave immediately, and call the gas company. If the electricity is not working, check to see if the main breaker is on. If it is and there's still no power, call your power company. Your house and your yard may be covered in ash and may still have live embers present. Wear the same type of clothing we recommended for the evacuation in the during the wildfire segment. This time, a dust mask will be especially important. Check for and extinguish any burning embers on the roof, in rain gutters, on the porch, or elsewhere on your property. Check for embers and smoke in the attic and in the crawl space. Check every day for several days. Start a list of things that have been damaged. Damage can occur from fire, smoke, water, and chemicals. Take photographs. Don't throw away damaged belongings or make repairs until you've talked to your insurance company. Do not eat food, drink beverages, or take medicine that's been exposed to heat, smoke, or soot. Smoke can infiltrate cloth and other materials. Using 1 to 2 cups of white vinegar with each load of wash can help rid clothing of that smoke smell. Commercial cleaning may be necessary for your drapes, upholstery, and carpet. Whether fire-damaged trees will survive depends on several factors, including their species, their condition before the fire, and how badly they were scorched. A green or white, moist cambium layer beneath the bark is a good indicator that the tree will survive. Also, if most of the buds are still green, moist, and flexible, the tree has a good chance of survival. Sometimes it's hard to tell if a tree will survive. In those cases, it may be worthwhile to wait until next spring. Sometimes after a wildfire, the soil itself can begin to repel water, to become hydrophobic. If water won't soak into the ground, try loosening the soil with a rake. A thin layer of straw on top of the soil can also help it absorb moisture. Irrigate stressed plants as soon as you can after the fire. Water the ground under trees for the full width of their drip line, the circumference of their canopy of branches, and for a few feet further. Keep watering until the soil is moist to a depth of 12 to 15 inches. Fire-stressed trees are vulnerable to beetle attack. Look for pink to red-colored pitch on the branches. Beetle-infested trees should be cut down and removed. Soil erosion becomes a major concern after a wildfire. Before the fire, fallen leaves and branches and plants with shallow roots helped control erosion, but that was all consumed by the fire. If the soil won't absorb water, it will become even more vulnerable. Several techniques are available for controlling erosion, including reseeding, the use of a straw mulch, and felling damaged trees across a slope. Planting of conservation grasses like crested wheatgrass can reduce the fire threat and help control erosion. After the fire, be on the lookout for unfamiliar plants. They could be invasive weeds like Russian knapweed, yellow star thistle, and Medusa head. For specific advice on how to care for a fire-damaged landscape, contact your local University of Nevada Cooperative Extension Office or Nevada Division of Forestry Office. Thank you for watching Living with Fire. We hope this program will help you live more safely in Nevada's high fire hazard areas. For more information, log on to these websites: livingwithfire.info, unce.unr.edu, and redcross.org. You can also call your cooperative extension office or your local firefighting agency and request the publication Living with Fire, a guide for the homeowner.
Okay. It seems like it's probably a lot longer than 24 minutes. But I timed it. It really was 24 minutes. There's a lot of information if you've never been in a wildfire and you have no idea how fast they move. I have been. It's scary. And I've also been on the fire line to fight the fire. So it was great when they put this type of video together to help the homeowners. Does anybody have any questions?
Mrs. Moore, I would like to thank you for informing us, because I know the type of information that was shared can be used in many different kinds of situations, and certainly we've experienced on a national basis that we have not if a disaster is going to happen, but when a disaster will happen in our community, we should be prepared. So I'd also like to thank Scott Lewis, Chief Lewis, for inviting you and helping us become more prepared and aware.
Good evening. Yes, Susan and I have been working on several projects over the years, and within the last 2 weeks we are discussing this project specifically, and it falls in line with a number of things that are going on right now. BLM launched earlier today their wildland initiatives and their burn moratoriums, and we will be following suit within the next week or so, depending on our weather conditions. So everything is kind of falling into place. We thought it might be a good opportunity to share some of the defensible space issues and to distribute some of the brochures that have been made available to us. And as Susan said earlier, there's also the materials available at the fire stations, and we'd be glad to come out and assist any of our community members as far as defensible space initiatives and giving suggestions. Sorry, Scott Lewis.
We just recently had a wildfire fairly close. I guess they said Sunday. There were 80 acres that were burned. I think they said something about near Tacopa.
Yeah, that was actually in Inyo County in California. They had a wildland fire in some foothills outside of Charleston View, and we were dispatched as well to go over and assist them. It became a BLM fire-related issue, but we did provide mutual aid for several hours. It did not affect any of the homeowners there, but again, it was a relatively large fire. It was windswept. It was a relatively windy day on Mother's Day, but everything went well.
I want to thank you very much for this information.
You're welcome. I just wanted to say one more thing. They mentioned that 50% of their fires are caused by human error, doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and the other 50% are lightning. So hopefully if this helps to reduce that 50% of people error, that this will be great.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
Actually, I'd like to make a statement, if I may. I know we're coming into fire season, and I'm sure that this doesn't apply to anybody out here, but far too often I see people throwing cigarettes out their car windows, and that's a major fire hazard during fire season. So if you're one of the guilty parties, please stop it.
And with that, I thank you very much. Okay, we will be moving on to item number 11. Discussion possible decision to approve the contract with William A. Kohlberger or alternative to approve a job description for the purpose of seeking applicants for the position of town manager and all matters related thereto. Mr. Culkin.
Mr. Chairman, I put this item on the agenda because I felt that we needed to step up to the plate and make some sort of decision. I've done, as I'm sure all us board members have, done an extensive amount of research to come up with whatever conclusion you've come up with. And that's why I put both options on there. I've worked very hard to address the concerns of the public and listen. I've answered emails, and I feel that I've done a pretty good job of coming up with the conclusion that I've came up with. I spoke to Mr. Kohlberger about concerns I have had, and I feel confident to step up and make a motion now. And with that, I would like to make a motion to offer Mr. William A. Kohlberger a one-year contract, as is in the backup, but I would like to make some changes to that contract. And with your indulgence, Mr. Chair, I would like to go through each change that I would like to make and explain my reasons. On Section 1 of the contract, on the second paragraph, it says this agreement can be renewed for a subsequent one-year period if employer gives 4. I'd like to change that to 3 months' notice. Going to page 4, under severance. Okay, let me get my bearing here. In the first part, it is in the event the employee is terminated by the town without cause before expiration of the term of his employment agreement, and the employee is still willing and able to perform his duties as town manager, then the employer shall pay the remaining salary due for 1 year of the contract. And what I'd like to interject after that would be, or 60 days, whatever is less. Okay, then it says when we get down to the end of that paragraph, it also states that health insurance for the employee and all dependents as defined in Section 4 for the remainder of the contract term. I also, again, would like to add, or 60 days, whatever is less. So and the next paragraph, it says, it seemed kind of unclear what happens if we were to terminate with cause, and I wanted to make it very clear. So in that part, it says, in the event the employee is terminated for cause, I would like to interject this. No notice is required, and no severance will be paid. Health insurance coverage will continue for 30 days. Any accrued annual leave will be paid within 30 days.
By law, it's got to be paid within 2 weeks, sir.
Okay, then, so we'll change it to that then. I didn't. Okay, when we get down to the bottom of the page, there are reasons that would be considered, though they are not limited to, but there are some reasons there of why it could be considered that we would terminate for cause. Again, having listened to people and addressing their concerns, I would like to add a number 6. And number 6 would be pattern of behavior deemed inappropriate by the majority of the board. And I would, that's my motion, and if anybody cares to second it or would like to add something to the changes or whatever, or comment, I'm all ears.
Anything from the rest of the board?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I have a question on the performance evaluation, section 12. And it talks about doing a town manager evaluation. In my looking at the different town manager evaluations that have been done over the years, the most recent one being 2009, it looks like that evaluation was performed by the town board. And it states that if employee fails to receive a favorable result, average of 3 or better by a majority of the board members, the town board, at its option, can give employee 1 month's written notice. When I looked at that previous evaluation, it did not meet that 3% or better, but there was no termination that was performed. So I'm wondering how we can understand that average of 3 or better can be met, and in what way would we be doing that evaluation?
I got to respectfully disagree with Mrs. Indersby. It did, both of the evaluations given to me by the town board did accumulate over to above a 3.0 or higher.
I have a copy in front of me of a 2009, and I don't want to necessarily, but I know it's below a 3%. That's stated right here on the evaluation, so.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, this is addressing this particular contract and, the past.
That's right, but this says average of 3 or better. So I'm wondering if we haven't met that standard in the past, and we're asking this contract to be written with that as a standard, and the town board did not act on it previously, why is it that we want to keep a 3-point when it wasn't something that seemed to be honored in the past?
If I can interject on this for a moment, it was at the option of the board. So, I mean, if the board at the time felt that substandard scores were acceptable, then that's.
If I may, Mr. Kohlbarger, this is simply about, there's 5 people sitting here, and that average applies to the next evaluation on an average of all 5 of us. Not anything in the past is my understanding. Would I be correct?
Mr. Darby?
Mr. Kohlbarger?
This paragraph was not in the last contract. This is in the new contract that you guys are looking at right now. It was not in the last contract.
That's correct, I added
This is something that Mr. Calkin added in and were requested to be added in. So it was not in the last contract.
Right, what I am looking at here is that there's 5 members here, and when we do our next evaluation, which would be due by January 31st, that the average means amongst us for that particular evaluation, not going back to the past.
Could I ask a question?
Ms. Parker?
Are you looking at a 4-point or 5-point scale? That makes a difference. Okay, if you're looking at a 5-point scale, 3 is average.
Any other comments from the board?
I didn't quite understand what Ms. Parker said, but I believe if we say a 5-point scale, we need to put that in there, that we're using a 5-point scale.
I can amend my motion to where it says average of 3 or better to follow with on a scale of 5.
I second that. I can second that then.
I didn't know there was a motion on the, Mr. Chair.
He was in the process of making his motion, sir. You're done with,
Yes, my motion was to approve a 1-year contract with the changes that I said in the contract.
Vicky just did.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Also, in looking at the evaluation that was done based on that average, it was skewed by one, it looks like one member that was also making 4s and 5s, which really does tilt the average. So even though it was a lower than a 3%, sometimes there isn't that ability to really make it a across-the-board average if somebody does not, if somebody tilts the average, is what I'm getting at. So if there's some way we can make sure that in our evaluation process, it's a fair process, certainly that's what we want to do. But it needs to be done, and that's the question I started with, is that with Section 12, performance evaluation, it really doesn't spell out what type of evaluation. And as I said in my review of different evaluations, they were all over the place in style. We initially talked about a 360 at one point, and I believe that was your recommendation to do a 360 evaluation, which for those who might not know what a 360 is, it's an evaluation that's done with the immediate circle of all people that are involved with that individual that's being evaluated rather than a small section of individuals, and it gives a higher weighted average. So I'd like to see if we could do a 360, which might bring it out to be a better average type of evaluation.
Being as the contract under Section 12 does not prohibit any type of evaluation, when it comes up that we're going to do this, I would assume that this board would approve a form of evaluation, what's on it, and then we would move forward and fill it out. If this was longer than a one-year contract, then I would be concerned about a scale of 5, because that simply means he needs to get 60% and he's passing. If it was a longer one, then I would want a scale of 4, because then that would mean he'd have to get a 75% and pass. But being as this is a short-term contract, I don't think we need to go to that extreme with this.
Any further comments from the board? I myself would like to comment on this contract because we were asked to submit changes that we wanted to see in a contract and submit those to the attorney to make to compile these together and give back to the board for our review. And after reviewing this, I don't see anything that I requested.
Mr. Chair, if I may, this is Mr. Culkin's agenda item with some of the changes that he proposed. If at your discretion tonight, you can suggest amendments to the contract.
And that's what
It was quite extensive, the changes that I submitted to Armstrong and Teasdale as we set before the board and agreed that what we would do is send them to your office and have the contract massaged as you would by the various board members with our suggestions to be brought back for our review. And I'm not seeing that. All I'm seeing is Mr. Culkin's changes.
Mr. Chairman, I am open to hearing any suggestions that you have. As I stated earlier when I started to make this motion, I wanted to hear what the board had to say. I just started off with the changes that I had suggested.
Well, like I said, we took the time to submit these things to Armstrong Teasdale, and I don't see them, so I'm not prepared to move forward with this.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I know exactly what you're saying, and I know that when we talked about submitting changes and receiving something back, we were talking about a 4-year contract. But with the 1-year contract, I can see exactly what Mr. Culkin is saying. When I asked for the changes to be made, one thing was the probationary period. For a 1-year contract, we wouldn't have that. For a 4-year contract, we would. So the changes that I wanted to see in the new contract would be a 4-year contract. For the 1-year contract, I have no problem with what Mr. Culkin is saying.
Any other comments from the board? We will open this up to public discussion. Seeing none, we'll go for a vote. All those in... Hmm?
We have a group of people back there. The only time they come to these meetings, not a one because
Come to the microphone and identify yourself, please. What?
Yeah, Bruce Cawley. Mr. Chairman, we have a group of people back there, been shouting, making noise, clapping all night. The only time they come to these meetings is when Mr. Kohlbarger's on the line. They come here, they're disturbing the meeting. Now you enacted a statute. Either quiet them down, I'm asking you, or ask them to leave.
Then I have to ask everybody to remain completely silent during the entire meeting. Now, we're going to address the contract. Would you like to make a comment regarding the contract?
Yes, I would.
Please.
Thank you. A couple of months ago, we informed Mr. Kohlbarger that his contract was not going to be renewed. Mr. Culkin stated at that time there would be brought up a discussion, having public input. This contract we have here is the contract that he had with the exception of the time change. So, and a few things that Mr. Culkin wanted to change. I think there's a lot more involved here. You yourself have a problem with Mr. Armstrong over here. We made the 10-day agenda item in effect so that attorneys could be advised and look over things before they came on the board. Now, obviously, they haven't done this. There's many reasons in here that I can bring up concerning International City Managers Association Code of Ethics.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me.
I made a motion, and would you please stick to that item?
That's in the contract.
for your opinion to talk about it.
Am I discussing the contract or not, Mr. Culkin? Is that not the discussion point here?
It's in the contract. He's discussing the contract.
It's right here in the first paragraph.
Continue on.
Okay, now, I'd like to ask the board if any of you have bothered reading this ICMA Code of Ethics. I happen to have a copy here. It's over 100 pages. And have any of you read it or looked at it or considered it? It's in the contract. It's definitely a consideration. Okay, we have another national and state league of cities. How far is he following their mandates or programs or policies or what? He's going up to the conferences. He got an award from them a short time ago. Have you read any of their literature, any of their guidelines, resolutions, or policies? I've got over 200 pages of it here. This needs to be taken into consideration before this contract is voted on, regardless if it's for a year or 30 days or 4 years. I think you owe it to the public and the town to know what you're engaging in. And if you haven't looked at these things, and even the town board policy, the personnel policy is almost 100 pages long. Have you looked over that and see how that applies to Mr. Kohlberger? I think we need to look at this before we do any voting, and especially now that Mr. Darby has brought his point up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens.
Hey, Stevens, public citizen, front citizen. I've listened to this town board. Every time I listen to this stuff, this is the fourth time this man has been brought in here to get fired, and he hires that lawyer to, my money, hires this lawyer to defend him. I've heard Harley Calkin, you hear him come across town, fire Kohlberger. All of a sudden he gets over here and he's on Kohlberger's side.
Mr. Stevens, do you want to address the contract?
Huh?
Do you want to address the contract?
I'd like to address that too, but...
well, we're not addressing the man, we're addressing the contract.
He hasn't even got a contract now.
That's what we're here to talk about, the contract.
I don't even understand what you people are talking about, to tell you the truth. And you probably don't understand me, but 4 times, that's the contract. And he hires this joker, this lawyer here. I would say throw Harley Calkin and this lawyer and Kohlberger out of here. They're no good. You're no good.
Personal attack.
You ain't much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Kenny Bent. I recall being here before we decided not to renew the contract. I think the whole point here is that we haven't flown an application, we haven't interviewed anybody, we don't know what any of our options are, what's available. We've got till June 30th. I'd like to see who's out there. I think that would be a opportune thing. I mean, this decision has already been made once. So let's see what our options are. I don't think we need to be voting on going right back where we were. I understand there's a few changes there, but let's see what's out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robin Lloyd, LLOID. I have a problem with this too, just like Mike. I think this thing should have been agendized separately. If you guys can't even agree on the contract, how can you offer him a contract that you haven't agreed on first? I think you should bring the contract up and take everyone's suggestions, because I would like to see a probationary period put in there too, even if it is a 1-year contract. But the fact that you guys need to agree on a contract first should come before offering it to anyone, whether it's Kohlberger or somebody else. I think it should have been agendized separately. So I think you should put this off until you can agree on that at least. I mean, you guys all can't, I know obviously Mike assumed that his changes were going to be put in the contract, and then it came out in the backup and nothing was there. So I think, you know, you should at least get these things straight before you jump into this. Like you said, you voted not to renew his contract, and this is basically the same contract with just a few minor tweaks. So that's not much different than renew his contract to me. I mean, you've shortened it, but it's still the same contract. You need to take everyone's changes into consideration. That was a great idea. I remember when you talked about that, and it was a great idea, and I thought that's what was going to be done. I thought you were going to bring a contract in front of the board so you guys could vote on a contract and then offer it to whomever you may decide to offer it to. But I think it should be agendized separately. I don't think you should go forward with this the way that it is. I mean, you've seen what this does to the community. This is a very emotional issue. And to just jump into something without getting everything straight, you know, I really think you should get it straight. Get it straight. Get it properly agendized, vote on the contract, agree on a contract, and then decide who to offer it to. You don't have to rush into this tonight. It should have been taken care of before tonight. I agree. You kind of waited to the last minute, but it still needs to be done properly. I mean, this is too important to just rush into. So my suggestion is to vote no on this particular motion and bring it back up. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll agree with the previous speaker. It's Phil Huff. There's a couple of items, if you want to follow along, on the first page under introduction. At the base of the section 3 compensation, there's an item on COLA. I suppose it's all right. COLA is almost a moot subject in today's world. If you know that the federal government has decided there hasn't been any cost of living, you know very well if you go to the market and the gasoline station, everything, there hasn't been any cost of living increase. So it's a moot point to have it in here because there isn't any cost of living increase. Social Security people don't have any cost of living increase. I don't know why it's even in there. There isn't any cost of living increase. And as long as we have the present federal government, there will never be any cost of living increase. It saves the federal government a lot of money not giving the increase to the deserving people in Social Security. Enough comment on political items. I would like to suggest in Section 4, in order to make a cost saving, which is very common today, it's prevalent in all negotiations with government employees, to have them share in the cost of premiums for health, hospitalization, surgical vision, so on, so it's listed here. I would like to say that the employer would agree to provide to pay 50% of the premiums rather than the entire premium. That seems to be the issue today in all government employee policies, both management employees and regular salaried employees. So I would like to make that suggestion for a change. In the next section where it says annual and sick leave, employers shall accrue pursuant to town policy, I would like to have the definition of that policy added to that paragraph so that people reading this would be aware of what that policy is, and rather than having to go discover it somewhere, plowing through the files, as Mrs. Enderby says, is not the most comfortable thing in the world to do. In the next one, automobile, the employee shall be provided an automobile pursuant to the town personnel policy. I don't know what that policy is. Again, it isn't outlined, but I think it should be something to say that there should be a complete and accurate record of trips on town business or other use of the automobile. In the next one, retirement, I would like to suggest that in the final sentence of that second paragraph, it says employers should consider defining contribution plan through ICMA Retirement Corporation employee. Again, totally nebulous. No one knows what ICMA, Retirement Corporation is, number one. And number two, it says that the employer shall consider defining a contribution plan. I don't know who came up with that wording, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. It should be more plainly stated whether the employer will be responsible for that item or not, and the retirement corporation the retirement corporation's plan should be defined.
Thank you, Mr. Huff.
Good evening. My name's Scott Coble. I think a one-year contract. I think a one-year contract is the right idea. I think you have a legislation process going on right now in Carson City with Mr. Kohlberger's contacts throughout the state. Now is not the time to bring in somebody who has no contacts. You guys as a board have to use your leadership to come together to find a good work performance standard and hold him accountable. You're the boss. He's the spokesperson. To get rid of somebody in the times that we are facing today without any contacts, to me, is crazy. It'd be like you kicking out 3 or 4 of the county commissioners and putting brand new people in there. They're going to be lost. So use this year to get through this legislative process to see if Mr. Kohlberger's cutting the mustard. If he's not, you got to do what you got to do. But right now is not the time to get rid of somebody because of hard feelings in the past. Use your leadership, your direction to move them forward. If you can't do that, then the board fails. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's how I believe.
Donna Cox, President of CCSC. We've discussed this at a lot of our meetings. The conclusion most people have come to is that they're not happy with the contract, and they've taken the time to come here tonight and let you know what they'd like to see in changes. And there's others who don't come to our meetings that have also showed up here. And I think you need to respect that fact. My old adage is 2 heads are always better than 1. And this contract should be written with anybody in mind, not with just Mr. Kohlberger in mind. It needs to be written in case you do get another town manager or somebody else to put in his place, that you want to see those apply to everybody, not just one particular person. I think the best thing that I would like to see, and the other people I've talked to would like to see, is that they would like to see that you make these changes, come back with the changes that you've all agreed on, and work them out in front of the public, have a solid contract, and then put it out for advertisement. Because competition is very good for the soul and it's good for the town. And I think other people should have an opportunity to come up here and present to you what they can do for the town. This is the time to be doing it when this is open. There will be no other opportunity to do that. In the meantime, I was just given something. I haven't had a chance to really look at it. But I understand that Mr. Kohlberger's house is up for sale and he's had an offer on it. So before we spend a lot of money maybe rehiring him, you should see.
What has that got to do with anything, Mr. Darby?
Because this is taxpayers' money and you
Darby?
really need to know what his future plans are. Is he intending to leave after you?
We're discussing the contract.
Well, I am too.
The house isn't the contract.
Okay.
The town doesn't buy the house. That's not in the contract.
I understand that, but you don't want to go through all this and not go out to bid if he plans on leaving. Maybe you should ask him what his plans are.
Thank you.
It costs more than most people's houses.
Can I have some order, please? Yes, sir.
My name is David Dye. I've been listening to this. Mr. Darby, you made this statement that the suggestions that you put in weren't addressed or they weren't included. I think that your suggestions should be in there as well as everyone else, and then collectively come together after all this is put in and you guys decide what you want to put in, what you want to not put in, and not vote on something that obviously nobody knows what you're talking about. Obviously, the other 4 don't seem to know what you put in there because it wasn't put in there or suggested. You need to have your views put in there as well as everybody else, and then collectively discuss them and come to some kind of a compromise on all of them, but I don't think yours should be excluded from the rest of them. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, seeing nobody else getting up for public comment, we do have a motion and a second to offer a one-year contract with the changes as provided this evening.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to address some of the comments that I heard from the public.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Darby?
If it's not to amend the motion, then we need to take a vote.
Okay.
Mr. Darby, I'd like to table this until we can have a workshop. I'd like to move that we table this until we have a workshop where we can sit down and look at the contract as it was talked about when we had an initial meeting with...
Mr. Darby, you have a motion on the floor, you called the question. She's out of order.
I can move to table.
It's within the power of the board members to request him to withdraw his motion.
The table. I'll be more than happy to read the parliamentary procedure about tabling.
I don't
It's
believe that would
necessary.
be necessary.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate your concerns, but I'm not going to withdraw my motion. I believe that this contract is tailored to Mr. Kohlbarger. I also believe that, I don't believe too many people would accept this contract in that arena, quite frankly. We took out moving expenses. We made this board very...
Mr. Darby, I'm sorry, point of order. When there's a motion to table, that motion needs to be addressed and voted on. And then if it doesn't get voted favorably, then you can go back to the main motion. But at this point, with the motion to table, it does need to be addressed.
Is there a second to the motion to table? Hearing none, it dies. So we'll call for the vote. All those in favor of offering a one-year contract with the changes presented this evening, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-2. Point of order. Come on, knock it off. Item number 12, discussion possible decision to approve the new contract for legal services with Armstrong Teasdale LLC and all matters related thereto. They're leaving.
I don't want to take break.
No, I want to get this over with. All right, we're going to go ahead with item number 12, discussion and possible decision to approve a new contract for legal services with Armstrong Teasdale LLC and all matters related thereto. Mr. Kohlbarger, do you want to present this?
Yes, sir. You have in front of you the contract that Mr. Campbell was down here. He talked to all of you on. Excuse me, sir. I'll wait for a second.
But you got a rude person going out this door right now that's the butthead. Sitting right there.
Come on.
Hey.
Just flipping people off.
All right, that's it. I'm taking a recess. I'm tired of this crap. We'll take 5 minutes.
Hey, I got a question.
Tough thing is
It's not just an idea. It's already in your list. I'm tired. I'm going. I'm gonna take the finger from Bowen. And he gave me the finger, and I don't think I deserve that.
Well, then I'm going to have to request that he doesn't come back.
I'll get closer.
I know. Carolyn, thanks for trying to be honest. The rest of this group should get together on that. Or something. No, I figured the next contract you're just going to ratify right away anyway, so we're going to leave. Have a good night. Congrats on your new contract.
Congratulations to you for running a good meeting. Over the road came out. Thank you. Appreciate the leadership. Stay here.
Oh, I don't know, buddy. Yeah.
If I can get the members of the board to come back to their seats. If I could get everybody to quiet down and take a seat, I'd like to call this meeting back to order. We're on item number 12, discussion possible decision to approve a new contract for legal services with Armstrong Teasdale LLC and all matters related thereto. Mr. Kohlbarger.
Yes, sir. As I was stating earlier, this is the contract that Mr. Campbell had put together upon talking with everybody. He had met with you one-on-one or two-on-one, which is well within the OML. He only made one change to it, and that was the arbitration. He had originally stated that he would take it back to his bosses at hand and see if it couldn't be a one contract to cover everything except major litigation. They didn't like the part about arbitration, so that is a separate charge if and when we have any arbitrations.
Okay.
And that is the only change in the contract that he had promised you guys and brought forward to you. No, not promised you, stated to you that he would bring back. Because he actually didn't make any promise. He actually told each and every one of you, if I remember correctly, that he had to run it by his superiors. And that was the only change. They took the arbitration out because they couldn't justify all the work and preparation for a 1, 2, or 3-day arbitration. And I'd be glad, and so would Brett, be glad to answer any questions the town board has.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a comment. When I sat down with the attorney, he did say that it was $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year, not including litigation with the 30-day clause. So he included everything that I asked for. And it did say not including litigation.
It did.
So I didn't know there was a change.
The only change, sir, was the arbitration. He had stated he would try and get all arbitration work into it. But I believe there is a section that states that arbitration is not counted.
That's correct. And what I'm saying is, he said he would try to get arbitration included.
Okay.
But I understood that that may be an exception. So like I said, I had no problem with that.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, for the public's clarification, one-on-one or two-on-one with the attorneys, we met, so naturally we might have heard a little bit different things. And the arbitration, though a little reluctant, looked like it was going to be included, and that was the only difference. I would like to give a little background on this. Initially, I went to Mr. Kohlbarger and I asked him to put an item on the agenda to give the 30 days notice to our legal representation, and he suggested that we meet with him, and we've been doing so. And the result of this is that I believe we've gone from $200,000 a year for what now is being offered at $120,000. So I would consider that a significant savings. And keep in mind that this is just either side can give a 30-day notice, so it's not like it's a long-term thing. So with that, I would make a motion to go ahead and approve this contract.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. One of the things that I heard from the community was we should look for an attorney for $120,000 a year. And this comes out to $120,000 a year. And not only do we get one attorney, but we get access to about 300 attorneys. So I think it's a very good deal, and I agree with Mr. Kochen.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? We'll open this up to public discussion.
Public comment now?
Yep, Dave, come on down.
Dave Stevens. I thought we had this discussed, we were going to give these jobs to the people who live in this town. But apparently you're giving them away to everybody, every Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes along. We had the garbage bill. We had to get Robin Lloyd to figure her and that other one there to figure the garbage bill out. They couldn't even spell the words. Stuff like that, they're incompetent. You may say they got 300 words, that don't mean nothing. We had a lawyer here in this town done the whole thing for $60,000. A nice guy, he come in and made things good here. Old Carl Jurger up there. What happened, he didn't paint a guy's house there, and they ended up firing him. They didn't fire him, he was an honorable man, he resigned. That's the kind of people we ought to have in here. We don't need these people from Las Vegas. This is our town. Kohlberger, same thing, he come down here, he wrecked the town.
Dave, we're talking about the attorney's contract.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Mike. Jesus, I can't, it's hard for me to even live with this stuff. I had a tooth pulled today, and I'm in agony, so I come down and fire that guy, but I'm not making any headway at all. Then they're springing that lawyer off on us. I don't blame him, he's making money, but we could use a local attorney here. They say they can't find one. I'd go out here and find one in 5 minutes. A good one. There's several of them I know. And they're good people. I'm not saying he's a bad man. He's just scratching around here trying to make a living like the rest of us, but Jesus, think about the town. You're not thinking about the town. I do think about the town once in a while, whether you believe me or not. But you people are not thinking about the town. You're out here against the people of this town, is exactly what you're doing. You can't tell me you're not, because, with the exception of Mike and another one of the industry over there. I see he getting his cue from Vicky, and all three of them together there. It's a clique you got going, there's no question about it. It's a solid clique. Think about the town. Think about getting a lawyer that would fit in with this town. This guy don't fit in. Hell, he gives me a dirty look all the time. Same with that Kashani. Well, that guy, if he'd had a gun, he'd have shot me.
Dave, we need to stay with the contract.
Okay. Yeah, no, sorry, Mike. I won't do it no more. I got to get all my seconds in here. Jesus, this is pitiful. It really is. It's pitiful that we can't get a local attorney here to work for this town. I might even get a little free advice from one of them sometime. I don't know. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
J.R. Fisher, once again, just along his line of thinking, who is retaining this lawyer? Who's paying him tonight? Whose payroll is he on? I mean, if he's defending Bill Kohlberger.
He's not defending him. He's the town's attorney.
I figured he should be on his paycheck.
He's not defending him. He's on the town.
And we don't know, again, who's paying him.
We are. The town is.
Bruce Cawley, extremely disappointed. $200,000 last year. What do you think this is, Palm Springs? Okay, so we're going to get them for 10 grand a month, supposedly. Got to read the next paragraph. Separate charges. Must be 15 or 20 of them listed there. How about the ones that are not listed? They're going to do all the work with their 300 lawyers, right? Okay. Additionally, for efficiency, we may use the services of affiliate of our firm, Logical Choice, to perform technical support such as documenting, bulk electronic filing, blah, 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 and on, at an additional charge. We had a question as to, is it the town's lawyer, or is it Mr. Kohlberger's lawyer? Well, I got a newspaper article here, August 29th, 2008, Town Attorney Jorga gives notice. He was working for $5,000 a month, probably doing as good a job. Seems Mr. Armstrong has a problem with the NRSs. and Robert's Rules of Order. Although Joga said no one had spoken with him about ending his contract, Town Manager Bill Kohlberger came prepared to answer Russ' questions. We have 2 firms that are currently looking at, said Kohlberger. He also said the town has already one proposal in hand. Yeah, I wonder who brought it.
Wasn't me, but thank you anyway.
You're out of order, sir. Yeah, I propose it's Mr. Kohlberger's lawyer. I think we can do a lot better for the money. Read the paragraph I mentioned and look at the additional charges. You think it's going to cost you 10 grand a month? I think you're living in Never Never Land. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robin Lloyd, I think you got to look at what you're getting for your money here, you guys. I think the last 3 years, all I've seen is bad advice and ineptness. And as far as the money goes, Donna brought this up. Donna Cox brought this up a few times. They were contracted for one set amount, and they were taking $1,500 a month extra. And when it got brought up, they paid back, I think, $500 of that $1,500 per month. And it was what, like 15, 16 months worth? So there's still a lot of money that this firm got that they didn't deserve, that they should have given back, that they haven't yet. And you're talking about giving them even more money per month. They were supposed to be getting $5,000, I believe, and they were taking $6,500, I think is the number, something like that. It was an extra $1,500 a month for over a year. And then when it got brought up, they paid back $500 of that $1,500. But there's still a lot of money unaccounted for here. And that goes beyond, that's beside the point. The bad advice that you're being given and the inaccuracy and he can look down at a contract and be told 20 minutes prior that there's a deed restriction, and then he can look at it and say, I see nothing here that would restrict anything. I mean, look at PTO 43. I can go on and on. There's just so many things that has come from this law firm that could have been handled so much better. Shouldn't you try to get someone who can do a better job? I mean, we've seen the job that's being done. This isn't the kind of thing like you're saying, Kohlberger, we can't switch horses in the middle of the race kind of thing. It's not the same thing with the law firm. I think you can find a better firm. I think you can find some people that can do a better job for you. We could point out, I didn't come with a list, but if I needed to, I could write it out for you and point it out. There's just so many things that, okay, 26 according to the man to my left here, that they were basically wrong about. Bad advice, ineptness, poor, I don't know. It's just, I just can't fathom the fact that you guys are going to give them a contract and more money per month with the work, with the results you've been getting from this firm. It's just, I don't know. I give up. It's mind-boggling to me. I'm done.
Thank you.
Bob Irving, citizen. I used to be on the PAVE board, and during that time, Mr. Kohlberger seen fit to send us a lot of letters that said that the town was going to sue us and things like this. Half the doggone letters that he sent us did not have the proper information in it. And these people sat there and took what he said instead of sitting out and finding out what was really said. And consequently, if PAVE at the time had had a lawyer, this town would have gotten sued. I mean, I'm serious. I can show you the paperwork that this town could have been sued because they were going and taking what he was saying as the gospel and not checking it out. And I think that we should be finding somebody in our own town that can do the job just as well as they can. And we used to have one. But the thing about it is we got to start thinking. Harley's always talking about we've got to have this and we've got to have this. We're not even using people in our own town to do anything. We're going out town. The swimming pool is a good example. They went out. Now, I don't know, I'm not saying that it was right or wrong, but the idea was that a Las Vegas outfit got it. Nobody here in town got it. I don't know if there was a bid or not. I think there was. But this is what I'm saying. If you're going to make this, if you want to be the town board members of the town of Pahrump, then start acting like the town board members of the town of Pahrump, and when the town people sit there and say, this is not right, ask them why, and listen to what they're saying. You're not doing it. And the lawyer is just giving you bad advice because Mr. Kohlbarger and him are like this when you go to a meeting. At least I can see one thing about the town, about the county. Their county manager sits over here, and the town and the district attorney sits over here. They're not sitting there talking to each other all during the meeting. They have a little convention going over there during the meeting every doggone time you turn around. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry for what happened earlier, first of all. But I'll tell you one thing right now. This is getting out of hand. We might just as well go back and get the board we had last year because they're just as bad as this, what you guys are turning out to be. And I'm sorry to say that. I like each and every one of you. But I'll tell you right now, you're not doing what this town needs. You're just hurting it more and more. And you're just carrying on just like the other town board did, just what they did. And no matter what Dr. Waters says, we've got to go and respect what the last town board did. We don't have to respect what they did. We have no respect. They don't have no respect for us. They gave us the problem of trying to get rid of him. Thank you.
Donna Cox. When this contract was up for renewal, I remember Harley saying that he wanted to do away with an open-ended contract. And now this is called a flat rate contract, but it's still the same exact open-ended contract, except now it's even more expensive. You know, it started out at $84,000. They ended up making themselves apparently more than $96,000, and that's per month. It's if you break it down per month, it's not. Anyway, it comes to a lot more over the year. It came to more than 150 or 160,000, so it was way above the 96,000. But now he's saying 110,000, and that's or 120,000, which is well over the 84,000 that he originally had. And the reason I say 96,000 is because according to the town records, instead of being paid $7,000 a month like he was supposed to, they were actually getting $8,500 a month. And then there was a correction made by Carla when she caught it, Carla Yoder, and so they reduced it down to $8,000 a month. They put back $500 a month of that, and I think it was over about a 16-month period. Well, I still would like to know what happened, and has anybody asked those questions? I brought this up to the board before. Where did that extra $1,000 a month go? How did they end up with 96,000 when they were only supposed to be getting 84,000? Okay, that's a question you need to ask them. So if you figure this out, on the average now, instead of $500 a day plus, which is what they were getting, they're going to be making $700 to $800 a day plus. This is way higher than what it was. And speaking of local attorneys, there are several local attorneys right here in this phone book. I think you need to put this out for advertisement, especially due to the amount of the contract. And you need to contact these people, send them an invitation, or advertise to them, would they like to come forward and maybe present a plan. They're local people. They own houses here. They're spending money here. They've been kind enough to come here to this town in the condition it's in and try to run a business. They have rent to pay. They need to have jobs. They need to have you come forward and let them know this is available, because most people do not see these ads and things that you put out. Unless they're in where people actually circulate, they're not going to get them. At least throw it up on the internet. We've had bad advice, we've had bad contracts, we've had illegal contracts. Harley tried to make an agreement with him to settle his suit. They turned him down. This is ridiculous. This is costing the town money we shouldn't have to spend. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Luca Morosky, Pahrump resident. I believe probably a month ago, I think our town has no money. I believe each and every one of you has a responsibility to any money is being spent in our town. I believe it's way too much. We claim that we are in deficit. We claim that we don't have many money. Now, people in town doesn't have no jobs, no nothing, okay? If you are willing to give it away, this is the money of our people. This is the money of the town that each and every one of you represents. We cannot just give it like it is a water. You are all intelligent people. You can interview. I'm pretty sure all of you have been employers one way or the other. I believe, yes, if you can hire or interview some of these lawyers in town, we have bright people in here. They know our town. They know what's come out, what's in, and what's involved of our town. And also the fact that if we don't have anything, everybody's losing jobs, everybody is poor law. Out around in Nevada, everybody's losing their jobs. Why is it we cannot analyze where is the problem? There is absolutely a problem, an overlapping problem that's not being seen. I think is your job. And I thank you if one of you or three of you can analyze this problem. Not just one focus, this man is it. No, there is other option, and I think that's the reason. Thank you.
Don Cox. You know, we had a little conversation with Joni Easley, and there's a county attorney, Mr. Coonsey's office, that can represent this town board. I don't care about 300 lawyers. That's to me is a kind of a statement that shouldn't even been made. Coonsey can do it for nothing because he can't charge. And we're going to pay this man when we get it done for nothing through the DA's office? Come on. When my wife's on the town board in Las Vegas, the DA represented our towns, all of them in Las Vegas. They was never steered wrong. And I don't think Mr. Coonsey's put his reputation on the line to tell us and do something for you guys that was wrong. He's doing a hell of a job for the county. We don't need these guys. You know, you can tell that the taxpayers are ticked off at all this money's being spent. And I know the town of Pahrump is not broke. But that's beside the point. We can get it to service for nothing. Let's get it for nothing. Think about that before you sign into the contract with this firm. I'm saying firm because I don't know who this guy is. I don't care. But when common sense, you want to save the town money, you get a firm that'll do it for nothing. The DA will do it for nothing. Get him. Common sense. What's wrong with common sense here? That's all I have to say. But 300 lawyers at their disposal, that's at their disposal, not yours. And my wife is right. This contract is an open-ended contract, and you guys shouldn't even approve it. It's no different than the one he's got now. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I need to address a couple issues. A comment that Mrs. Cox made.
Actually, Mr. Culkin, I'm going to ask you to hold your comments because we do have a motion and a second, and there's nobody getting up for further public discussion. One more.
My name is Lynn Jones.
You need to turn on your microphone, dear. There's a button that says push.
Is it on now? Yeah. My name is Lynn Jones, and I'm a realtor, a broker, and I work for Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and Wells Fargo. In this town of Pahrump, I can tell you there are hundreds of bank-owned properties at present, and there are many more forthcoming. Fannie Mae called the other day and asked how much inventory can you handle? And I only service Pahrump. I guess my point here is you need to first look at the people within Pahrump and offer any and every job available to them here in Pahrump. Please do that for their sake. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we'll close public comment and we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving this contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Motion carries 3-2.
Mr. Chairman, if I may comment on a couple of those things. Mrs. Cox indicated that I was trying to work some kind of deal out with the town's attorney. She was stating the facts. The facts are that I have a lawsuit with the county and the town, and they are represented by PillPack attorneys in Reno, and that's who I discussed trying to make something with, and it has nothing to do with the town's attorneys. The town's attorney do not represent PillPack nor have any relationship whatsoever with them. And I also want to clarify Mr. Cox's statement. I personally spoke to our district attorney, and he said he would consider representing the town if we paid for one of his deputy DA's salaries, which I believe would be in about the same ballpark. That's what he told me personally. Not for free. He won't do it for free.
Actually, Marcus, we got to pay.
Mr. Darby?
Okay. Yes, Mr. Kohlbarger.
Can I also answer two of the statements? PTO 43 was written by a collaboration of 3 attorney firms. The group who sued us, the group who got sued, and the town. Ours was Armstrong Teasdale, but again, it was a collaboration of 3 groups of attorneys that wrote PTO 43. Number 2, it was an RFQ that was sent out, and that's a request for qualifications when Mr. Drager stepped down, and I was directed by the last, or 3 previous town boards ago, I believe it was, to do that RFQ, and 2 firms, one from Elko and one from Reno, Vegas, sent in their applications, and those were put in the newspapers throughout all the state of Nevada. Number 3, the swimming pool, the bid was given, accepted. Gothic Landscape did win it, and 90% of the employees from Gothic Landscaping live, and I'm going to say it again, live right here in the town of Pahrump. Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move on to item number 13.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make a comment as well. And I want to say that because I spoke to Mr. Kunze as well. And the comment he made to me, and I heard it also from Mr. Culkin, is the fact that he would have one attorney for the town at the cost of $120,000 a year. He said it is no way I can offer anything free. He stated that. So it would not be free, it would be $120,000. And to have access to 300 attorneys versus one attorney, I think it's worth it.
Point of order. I have the NRS here, and it says that...
Step forward to the microphone, please.
It's under 269.0.0, duties of county officers and compensation. The district attorney, county auditor, county assessor, and all of the county officials are not specifically exempted therefrom in each of the counties of this state shall perform the duties required or authorized to be performed by them under and by virtue of the provisions of this chapter, and shall be held liable on their official bonds for the faithful performance thereof. All such officers shall pay all the fees or the monies received by them under any law or ordinance touching the provisions of this chapter in time and manner as provided by general law to the county treasurer of their respective counties to be distributed to the fund of that proper town or city, and no officer performing any duty under this chapter excepting officers and employees of the fire department and or company or peace officers thereof authorized shall demand or receive any compensation therefor.
Thank you. I believe that
If
this,
he demanded that, he must have broke the law.
I believe that this item has been voted on, and we are moving on to item 13, which is discussion and possible decision to approve the recommendation of
Resources Manager for Nye County. On February 1st, the Board of County Commissioners directed staff to proceed with development of a habitat conservation plan for the desert tortoise. And staff have had several meetings with Fish and Wildlife, Bureau of Land Management, to discuss the habitat conservation planning process. The board also directed staff to form a Desert Tortoise Habitat Advisory Board, which consists of one member of each of the town boards of Amargosa, Beatty, and Pahrump, as well as 3 members of the public. And so we are now soliciting applications or members for the board, for each of these boards. We have met with the boards of Amargosa and Beatty, and we have someone from the Beatty board that we're working with. So we'd like to answer any questions you have, and hopefully we look forward to working with you on this.
No, I appreciate that. Is there any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, I would like to volunteer for this. I live in the tortoise area, and I'm rather fond of them. They come into my front yard and eat my vegetation in the summertime. When I walk on the BLM, I know they're there. I come across them from time to time, and I really would like to be involved in this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to recommend Mr. Harley Culkin, since he is on the Public Lands Advisory Board, but after hearing what Ms. Parker said, I would also endorse her to be the liaison for this. I know we need someone from our board, and we needed someone that that wanted to do this job, and she sounds like she wants it, so I would support that.
Could it be possible that if I were selected, that we could have Harley as an alternate? Would you accept alternates?
Mrs. Parker couldn't attend one meeting and Mr. Cochran attended her place.
That was my question, yes.
Yeah, I believe that would be okay.
He also lives in the tortoise area.
If I could, I'd like to get a little background to what you're proposing here, how often the people would meet and where and so on.
Okay. Most of the meeting, well, we have not actually scheduled any meetings yet because we've not actually formed the committee. And the process here is that we find applicants for the committee, and then we recommend them to the Board of Commissioners, who have to accept the applicants. And at that point, the board will be formed. We're anticipating either probably bi-monthly meetings, meeting every couple of months, or quarterly. We've not set a schedule yet. It really depends on the progress we make with some of the issues we're working on. I anticipate that meetings would be held primarily in Pahrump, but again, we have not set a schedule.
Yeah, thank you.
This is an action item. I will entertain a motion at this time.
Yeah, then I'll make a motion to nominate Mrs. Parker for this position here.
How about yourself as alternate?
And me as alternate, there you go.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion from the board? Is there any public comment? You gentlemen may want to stand close by to answer questions, please.
Bob Irving, my question to these two gentlemen is, why do we have to pick a town board member? Why can't we pick a citizen at large?
There are 3 spots for citizens at large. We'll be putting an ad in the paper for.
Why do we, in this particular deal here, why do we feel we have to go and have a town representative here? I mean, I look at it this way, this is something that there's probably a number of people in this town that probably have gone through such things as tortoise habitat or tortoise stuff. Why are we specifically saying the boards have to select a person as opposed to having a citizens committee do it? I'm just asking.
Well, we're looking for not entirely a citizens committee. We're looking for 3 people from the general public and then 1 from each of the town boards.
Okay, well, again, probably the 3 people you're gonna get from, and the general are probably gonna be as probably as knowledgeable as I am, which is nothing. But, and the town board people are not any more knowledgeable. Just because Mrs. Parker has tortoises coming into her yard doesn't qualify her. I think that if this type of committee should be up so that people are getting, what's happening, people are getting a little bit tired of town boards or community boards like Armagosa and Beatty, they're getting tired of having politicians telling us what they've found. They would like to have somebody that's not a politician be able to give them a good answer. And be free to give them the answer without having to go and talk to on meeting standards and stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Mr. Irvin, if I may interject, I believe what they're actually asking for from the communities, from the boards is to represent their respective community on this advisory board.
Well, yeah, but you know, if it could be any one of these people out here that could be a representative of the community. There's no qualifications for the job. I'm just making a statement, that's all. Thank you.
Any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote to approve Ms. Parker as a, you know what, I didn't write down the motion. I'm sorry about that. Can you repeat that?
Yes, sir. It was, the motion was made to accept Mrs. Parker as the representative with Mr. Calkin being the alternate, sir.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 14, discussion possible decision to approve placing certificates of appreciation / achievements, proclamations, and awards, as well as items involving the presence of children on the agenda, starting at item 3. This is an action item. Before we consider this item, I would like to point out that the order of agenda items is at the discretion of the chair, and with a simple phone call, we could ask that Mr. Kohlberger arrange that as a permanent item for number 3 without having to go through a 20 to 30-minute discussion. Would you care to pull this item, or would you like to continue?
So what are you saying, Mr. Darby?
Why
Down
don't we
here, please.
just check the pleasure of the board. If they're for it, fine. If they aren't, it goes away forever. But my suggestion was to make that a permanent item number 3, because we're always switching orders to bring up the children, or it's rather rude, I think, to honor people and put them way down on the agenda. The last meeting, I noted the time. When we got to the proclamation for the Elks, it was 9:38. And I just think that if we're going to honor somebody, we should be able to just do it and do it right, not make them sit and wait.
Okay, so we will consider item number 14.
If I understood your suggestion, Mr. Chair, you're just saying that you can do that, being the
Yes.
chair, and we don't need to take a motion on it, so.
That is correct, but I just wanted to, rather than unilaterally say, Mr. Chair, would you please do this? I just wanted to make sure that it was okay with the rest of the board. That's all.
So you're asking for a vote on item number 14 by the...
All right, I'll ask for a vote since nobody's discussing or saying anything. How's that? How about, I'll move that we place certificates of appreciation, achievements, proclamations, awards, as well as items involving the presence of children on the agenda as a permanent item number 3.
I'll second the motion.
All right, any further discussion by the board? Seeing none, we'll open it up to public discussion. No public discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of moving certificates of appreciation, achievements, proclamations, as well as awards of agenda items involving the presence of children to be placed as a permanent item number 3, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 15, discussion possible decision to approve Phase 1B of the Environmental Impact Statement, EIS, for the proposed Pahrump Valley Airport in the amount of $65,980, in which the town's contribution is 5% or $3,299. Mr. Kovager.
You have all the material in front of you. Basically, this is just the second phase of the EIS that the previous town board voted to move to. Our portion of it is $3,299, and that's what we will pay. The town board basically goes and says yes. And I will be glad to answer any questions. You do have a lot of backup there. I tried to give you a detailed history of going from the EA to the EIS, and I hope that I answered all your questions before you asked them. If not, I'll be glad to answer, hopefully, try.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I would just like to confirm what I did a little research of. We don't move forward on this, then everything that in the past has the potential to just be dead, correct? And then we wasted all that time and energy and money in the past.
That's correct, sir.
Any further comments from the board?
Yes. Just to put this out in front of the public, this is something that has been worked on for over 10 years. Is that correct, Mr. Kohlbarger?
Yes, sir. Charlie Gronda started this approximately, I believe, 13 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way...
Yeah, go ahead.
May I? Please. And by the way, Mr. Gronda is representing the town of Pahrump as the airport director at the Nevada Airport Association's annual conference, and that is his ballgame. He has been going. Last year he could not go because of something about he got married, something like that. No, I was being facetious because an individual keeps saying that he's no longer part of the airport, but he is still a very much part of the airport, and he is our representative, and he does attend all the meetings.
I want to clarify the fact, too, that the FAA is paying 95% and we're only paying 5%. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's why I have to list the entire amount of $65,980, but again, which the town's contribution is 5% or $32.99.
I would like to move that we approve Phase 1B of the Environmental Impact Statement, EIS, for the proposed Pahrump Valley Airport in the amount of $65,980, in which the town's contribution is 5% or $3,299.
I'll second.
Any further discussion by the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving Phase 1B of the Environmental Impact Statement for the proposed Pahrump Valley Airport in the amount of $65,980, in which the town's contribution is 5% or $3,299, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, town board.
Item number 16, discussion possible decision to approve purchasing a new Larkan MXD3 OU 30-watt UHF broadcast digital translator with 3-pole filter input channel 43 and output channel 36 for the town of Pahrump Tower, to include procurement, installation, alignment, and proof of performance for an amount not to exceed $15,725. Mr. Kolar.
Thank you, Mr. Darby. You're getting really good at that. one entire breath. As I stated at the previous town board meeting, just briefly, and I'll restate again, the ABC translator was on the original tower that blew down roughly 3.5 years, it's been 4.5 years ago now, or was it 3.5, something like that. Upon the initial examination of that translator, it was deemed to be appropriate and working well. Unfortunately, when we got the new tower up, we put the ABC translator up that was approved to be appropriately working correctly. And in October, November this past year, it started having issues. It went down, so myself, George Richardson, and Matt Lewis got together and decided, what are we going to do? It's $15,725. Well, instead of paying it all, George was going to contact ABC over in Las Vegas and see if they'd pay 50%, because he remembers that they paid 50% of the original translator. And in the process, I determined that I was going to call the Pool and Pact and see if I couldn't get them to reopen a claim that they had already closed, which was a tower claim. In the process, we were both successful. Mr. Richardson was successful at obtaining 50% of the cost from ABC in Las Vegas, and I was successful in getting the Pool and Pact to reopen the claim and pay 50%. So therefore, you're getting $15,725 translator for free, because ABC paid half, our insurance company paid half, not a dime's coming out of our general fund. And what we're acting as now is a pass-through. We got the money from ABC, we got the money from Pool and Pact, and we're just turning it around and giving it to Mr. Richardson to go ahead and order it, procure it, and install it, align it with proof of performance. And I hope I explained that well enough to answer any and all of your questions.
So basically, these funds are not, this is not impacting the town financially one iota.
Exactly, sir. Again, Mr. Richardson and I and Mr. Lewis did a little tag team on this, and it worked out really well for the town. Saved us $15,725.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
Yes, I'm glad to see this done, because I do get comments from people who'd like to watch ABC, and I'd like to compliment Mr. Lewis, Mr. Kohlbarger, and Mr. Richardson for the amount of time that they put in this, getting it to us gratis. Good job.
Any further comments from the board? At this time, I will entertain a motion.
I would like to move that we approve purchasing a new Larcon MXD3 0U 30-watt UHF broadcast digital translator. Do I need to read the rest of it, or is that good enough, Mr. Kohlberger? In an amount not to exceed $15,725.
I'll second.
I knew I didn't have to read it all.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment from the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 17, discussion possible decision to approve purchasing a new Gearmore S-Series rototiller model number S230 in the amount not to exceed $7,959.
You have a memo there, if I may, Mr. Darby?
Please, Mr. Kohlbarger.
You have a memo there from Matt Lewis advising that the old Gilmore is still working but does break down. It is quite old. We are ordering this through a Pahrump tractor right here in Pahrump, so the money is staying right here in the town of Pahrump. And we went for 3 unofficial bids, as they're all in the backup. The lowest bid was actually a group in Las Vegas, but Matt called Pahrump Tractor to see if they would match it. Pahrump, blah, 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 blah. Pahrump Tractor said that they would match it, so we actually saved it about $170 extra, and the total amount is $7,959. So thank you for Pahrump Tractor.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman. I spoke to Mr. Lewis in regards to this piece of equipment, and he's told me that they've done a lot of welding on it and so on. And of course, metal fatigues when it gets old. The more you weld on it, the more brittle it gets and so on. And this thing's having a hard time staying together anymore. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve purchasing a new Gilmore S-Series rotary tiller model S230 in the amount not to exceed $7,959.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment from the board? Hearing none, any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the purchase of a new Gearmore S-Series rototiller, model S230, in the amount not to exceed $7,959, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 18, discussion possible decision to authorize Pahrump Town Board to submit a request to the Nevada Department of Transportation, NDOT, to consider dedicating a portion of the State Route 160 from Nye County line to US 95 as Veterans Memorial Highway. Dr. Waters.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is something that that Commissioner Boraski put together for the county, and they have already voted on it, and I would like to see the town also support our veterans by renaming a portion of 160 from the Nye County line to US 95 as Veterans Memorial Highway. And I make a motion to do that.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board?
Let's take a vote.
It is an action item. We'll open it up to public discussion.
I told you, let's take a vote.
Well,
oh, here we go.
Hello, I'm Eddie Jim with the Pahrump Bayou Tribe. I'd just like to know how come the town board is actually interested in veterans. That was never an issue in this town. I'll just, since I got 3 minutes, I'll just say why I'm opposed to this. I seen a Native American man have to leave his home here in Pahrump with his belongings in it. And after he had left for a while, he was drafted in the Army. That's why he had to leave. Well, the town here decided they'd need to burn it down. With the help of the volunteer fire department and the sheriffs, they actually burned his belongings and everything. And this man was a veteran. He was off to war. And that's why I'm opposed to this, because this was done by prominent people in this community. Some just turned their back like nothing happened. This happened in the 70s. And this was done with no notice. Only way the family found out, it was in the newspaper a couple days before they'd done it. And I thought all the veterans were equal, but evidently not in this town of Pahrump. So to make it short, since they did this to this American Indian, I'm against having this road named in honor of the veterans. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Art. Point of order, Mr. Mr. Chair. Could you either close the door or ask him to step away from the entrance? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Enderby.
Good evening. My name is Art Jones, citizen of Pahrump, service-connected disabled American veterans. I wish you would pass this. This came up once before to the town board. As a matter of fact, I brought this up to the town board and the county commissioner some years ago. Evidently, it fell to the wayside. No, I noticed going out up to Reno, I think it is. Each place on that highway have a sign dedicated to each veteran that served in the war, starting from World War II all the way up to, I think the last one is Desert Storm, the last time that I seen it, and it's on the stretch of highway. Right now, all we asking for, the state line from the south to the 95 on the north, that stretch, that Veterans Highway. Maybe later on, we'll come back and ask you for a little bit more space. Thank you.
Thank you.
No. You know, in respect to the American Indians, they were here first.
Please state your name.
My name is Lynn Jones. In respect to the American Indians, they were here first. And throughout history, they've been pushed aside. If you're going to dedicate a portion of the highway to the veterans, perhaps you should dedicate a portion of the highway to the Indians. That could maybe appease the situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I comment on this?
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that many of our veterans are Native Americans, and this is for all veterans, regardless of what they are or what their nationality is. The U.S. veterans have served this country, and all we want to do is recognize our veterans, regardless. And many of our veterans are Native Americans. Thank you.
Yes, my name's Louis DeCanio. I'm a Pahrump resident, and Dr. Tom just said what I was going to say. The word veterans covers us all. Don't matter what gender you are, race, nationality, a veteran's a veteran. Covers us all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Must have read my mind, Dr. Tom.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. To authorize the town of Pahrump to submit a request to the Department of Transportation to consider dedicating a portion of the State Route 160 from Nye County line to US 95 as Veterans Memorial Highway. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 23, discussion possible decision regarding closed session to receive information and advice from town attorney regarding potential or existing litigation pursuant to NRS 241.015.
Need a motion to go into closed session.
I will move that we move into closed session to receive information advice from town attorney regarding potential or existing litigation pursuant to NRS 241.015 to subsection 2B2.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We'll move into closed session.
Where do we go?
Right out the hallway, down the hallway to the right, there's a little training room back there they got for us.
got it.
I'd like to call this meeting back to order.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion to direct legal to attend the upcoming public hearing and represent the town and address the town's position not to support the change in the county ordinance.
I second.
Any discussion by the board? Any public comment? Sorry about that. I have to ask. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. Chair, I would just note that Ms. Indersby had to leave, and that that's the only person not in attendance.
I'm sorry, I should have spoke up and said that Ms. Hendersby had to leave because of a prior engagement. Okay. That brings us to item number 26, future meetings, workshops, dates, times, location. The Town of Pahrump final budget hearing is May 19th, 2011 at 7 p.m. Wasn't it stated earlier at 6?
It stated earlier 6, but
It's 6?
we've had it on the last two agendas of 7 p.m., so I don't know if anybody's moved it. Did Michael move
I
it?
don't know, you had it.
The advertisement says 6.
Okay, the advertisement says 6. Mr. Sullivan moved it up an hour. So it is 6 p.m., sir.
I did clarify with Carly.
All right.
Okay, so that's May 19th at 6 p.m. Anything from the board? May 19th at 6 p.m.
6 instead of 7.
instead of 7. Anything else from staff?
No, sir.
With that, meeting's adjourned.
Lordy.